Chapter 898. The moment the array was broken, the 100-change star sovereign took action. The core of the array is behind me. Go in quickly, the five-clawed golden dragon said. With a wave of its tail, it blocked the path of Tang Zheng and the Empyrean fairy. The 100-change star sovereign sneered as his evil plan succeeded. He went past the five-clawed golden dragon and arrived behind it. Stop him, Tang Zheng shouted. There was something in the core of the array that was very important to him, the Heaven and Earth Black Stone. This array was maintained by the Heaven and Earth Black Stone. If the array was broken, the Heaven and Earth Black Stone would definitely reappear in the world. The 100-change star sovereign was very familiar with the Heaven and Earth Black Stone. Back then, the stairway to heaven was destroyed by him. If he snatched the Heaven and Earth Black Stone, then Tang Zheng would cry, but have no tears. So, the Empyrean fairy flew over, and the dragon's tail swept towards her. She shouted and took out the mountain river map. A terrifying pressure came from the mountain river map. A vine extended out and clashed with the dragon's tail in midair. Bang! With a loud sound, the hall shook. The vine broke into two, and the dragon's tail flickered with golden light. However, the attack came to an abrupt end. The Empyrean fairy took the opportunity to fly over the five-clawed golden dragon's head and landed in front of the door. The 100-change star sovereign had already pushed the door open. Stop! The Empyrean fairy shouted. Whoosh! A strong gust of wind blew behind her. Without turning her head, the Empyrean fairy pointed her finger backward, and a huge rock flew out of the painting of mountains and rivers of the gods of Vale. Another explosive sound rang out as the dragon's tail swept across the boulder. Rubble flew everywhere like sharp arrows. Tang Zheng took out the sacred armor shield and blocked the rocks. Then, he leaped up and waved War Soul to attack. Since the five-clawed golden dragon was not benevolent, then he had no more worries. He had to stop them. Boom! Heaven flying immortal, a sword from the west. The War Soul sword directly slashed onto the five-clawed golden dragon's body, creating an intense spark. The golden light flickered and then gradually disappeared. The scale armor actually dimmed and lost its luster. Tang Zheng was secretly delighted. The War Soul sword was indeed worthy of being a saint artifact. Its power was indeed extraordinary. The five-clawed golden dragon glared at Tang Zheng and said in surprise, Your War Soul sword has actually become a holy artifact? Tang Zheng had not displayed his magic treasure in front of it for a long time, so the five-clawed golden dragon did not know about the transformation of the War Soul sword. The scales of the five-clawed golden dragon were invulnerable. Ordinary magical weapons would not be able to harm it in the slightest. However, sacred tools were different. They could harm it. What does my War Soul sword taste? Tang Zheng asked. So what if it's a sacred tool? Do you really think you can beat me? The five-clawed golden dragon said disdainfully. I don't expect to win, as long as you stop you. Tang Zheng raised his sword and attacked again. With Tang Zheng's help, the Empyrean fairy was temporarily relieved. Seeing that the 100-transformation star sovereign was about to rush to the eye of the array, she shook the mountain river map. A terrifying suction force gushed out from the mountain river map, firmly locking onto the 100-transformation star sovereign. The 100-transformation star sovereign roared, Don't even think of stopping me. The heavenly water banner waved behind it, causing a flood to appear out of thin air, sweeping towards the Empyrean fairy. This space was not big to begin with. When the flood appeared, it occupied almost half of the space. Most of the five-clawed golden dragon's body was submerged under the water. The Empyrean fairy was not afraid at all. The mountain river map's suction force was activated, and in an instant, the flood was sucked in. But after such a delay, it was already too late. The 100-transformation star sovereign stood in the eye of the array and immediately used his magic to break the array. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire space shook violently. Rays of dazzling white light gushed out from the eye of the array, illuminating the surroundings. It even overshadowed the five-clawed golden dragon's golden light and the luminous pearl's radiance. The white light intertwined to form a light screen, enveloping the 100 transformations star sovereign. Boom, boom, boom. The earth trembled, and everyone felt dizzy. They swayed left and right, and the stones on the walls fell one by one. Tang Jing's expression changed abruptly. He could not care less about the five-clawed golden dragon. He exclaimed, "Oh no, he has already started to break the array." "I know," the Empyrean fairy said coldly. Her figure flashed, wanting to rush into the light screen to stop the 100 transformation star sovereign. Bang! However, with a muffled sound, the Empyrean fairy crashed into the light screen, causing circles of ripples. The light screen was intact and did not shatter. The Empyrean fairy was stunned. She knew very well how powerful her attack was, but the light screen did not even budge. It was strange. She snorted coldly. She did not believe it and rushed out again. Bang! She was bounced back again. 100 Change Star Sovereign was still worried at first, but when he saw that the light screen was safe and sound and that the 9 Heavens Maiden had returned without any success, he was overjoyed. He laughed wildly. "Ha! A 9 Heavens Maiden continue. I want to see how you're going to break in." Tang Zheng was also stunned. What was going on with this light? Even the Empyrean fairy could not break through it. The five-clawed golden dragon also stopped and looked at the Empyrean fairy with ridicule. "Don't waste your energy. You won't be able to break through. The array is already disintegrating bit by bit. I can feel that I will soon regain my freedom." As his voice fell, the chains on the dragon's claws began to clatter and emit a metallic luster. The hall shook violently. The stones on the walls fell off as if there was an earthquake. At the same time, the entire capital moved. The earth seemed to have awakened. At first, there was a slight tremor, but then it became more intense. Beams of light rose into the air from all directions of the capital. Those who were familiar with the geography of the capital would know that these beams of light were coming from the gates of the old city walls of the capital. But now that the old city walls have been destroyed, most people would not be able to see any clues. These beams of light shot into the sky, illuminating the night sky. Cries of alarm rang out in the capital. Many people crawled out of their beds and shouted, "Earthquake! Earthquake!" The shaking continued, but it did not cause the buildings to collapse. It was obvious that the intensity was not that great, but this kind of scene was really frightening. There were also a few beams of light in the sky. It really felt like a science fiction movie. Tian Chanzi looked at this scene and turned pale with fright. How can this be? Number one's legs were about to go soft. He barely supported himself and asked, "What's going on?" Tian Chanzi muttered to himself. He had already come to a conclusion. This was breaking the array. Someone was about to release the five-clawed golden dragon. What exactly happened below? Why did they release the five-clawed golden dragon? Tian Chanzi could not figure it out, but he could not sit still and wait for death. He hurriedly cast a spell and prepared to enter to investigate. However, he found that it was useless. The array had become extremely unstable. He had no way of entering. He was so anxious that he stomped his feet. What should he do? Something big was going to happen. What was going on below? He was like an ant on a hot pan, anxiously running around in circles. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, was not much better at the moment. The stones on the wall had completely fallen off, revealing a pitch-black space that one could not see the end of. We can't sit still and wait for death. Chiyu, didn't I tell you to think of a way? Have you thought of one? Tang Zheng was flustered and exasperated. His face was ashen. I'm still thinking of this method, Chiyu said hesitantly. Think about it. If you can't think of a way, then we're all going to die here. There must be a way, but it will take time to think of a way. Tang Zheng was fuming with anger. At this time, there was still so much nonsense. He was about to continue to get angry when he heard Chiyu shout in surprise, "I thought of it! I thought of it!" Tang Zheng's head trembled. A glimmer of hope ignited in him and said, "Say it quickly. Let's resolve the crisis." Chiyu did not dare to delay any longer and said quickly. Chiyu did not want to die. After saying that, he kept urging Tang Zheng to move quickly. Tang Zheng's eyes widened in surprise. So it could be like this. Why didn't he say it earlier? Why did he have to wait until this moment of life and death to say it? You felt wronged. Didn't I just think of it? There are too many things in my head. I have to sort them out. Tang Zheng tiptoed and rushed to the eye of the formation like an arrow. This time, the five-clawed golden dragon did not stop him. Instead, it looked at him mockingly. This was because it believed that Tang Zheng had no way to penetrate the white light. Naturally, he would not be able to destroy this good thing. It was happy to see them work in vain. The Empyrean fairy had indeed worked for nothing. She had used all her skills, including the painting of mountains and rivers, but it was to no avail. That white light was like an indestructible barrier, protecting the multiform star sovereign with all its might. The crisp laughter of the 100 Faces star sovereign echoed around. He danced with joy. Ha! Interesting, interesting. This is fun. You guys continue to watch. This is much more interesting than the days at Mount Bujo. The 100 Transformation Star-Lord had the appearance of a child to begin with. Now that he was in such high spirits, he looked exactly like a brat. However, when they thought of his actions and abilities, no one dared to treat him as a little kid. Instead, they felt a chill in their bones. Everything he did seemed like a game to him. However, to others, it was a matter of life and death. Tang Zheng looked at the annoying 100 Faces Star Sovereign and said, "Don't be so happy. You'll cry later." "Is that so? Then I'll wait and see." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign laughed. "Fu Yao, move aside. I'll do it. You'll do it." The Empyrean fairy was shocked. She looked at him skeptically. Even she could not do anything. What could Tang Zheng do? However, looking at his confident look, her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he really did have a way? She knew that at this critical moment, Tang Zheng would not joke around. She moved aside and looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. She did not know what he would do. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. The ground shook even more violently. Even the rocks above their heads were falling. However, the momentum of the Imperial City's ground was even greater. With a loud bang, the ground caved in under everyone's eyes. Everyone cried out and hurriedly retreated. In an instant, a large hole appeared in the center of the Imperial City. It was more than 10 meters deep. It was like a bloody mouth that wanted to devour people. What's going on? The ground caved in. The ground caved in. Number 1 stared at the big pit with a burning gaze. This confirmed his previous conjecture. It was impossible to find a dragon by digging 3 feet into the ground. There was no dragon in this big pit that was more than 10 meters deep, right? But what was going on with such a huge battle formation? Chapter 899. If a real dragon was going to come out, then he didn't dare to think too much. He quickly hid in a corner and dialed the chief's number. This important information must be reported in time. Tian Chanzi didn't even look at him. He just stared at the crater, and his heart was in turmoil. Tang Zheng, you brat, you better not let anything happen to you. I'm just worrying for nothing. He'll definitely be fine. After all, he's not weak, and he has the Empyrean fairy's protection. Even if he comforted himself like this, he still couldn't calm down. The ground was still shaking, and Tang Zheng felt that the shaking was getting worse. He steadied himself and approached the light screen under the provocative eyes of the 100 Faces Star Sovereign. He stretched out his hand. The ridicule in the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's eyes became more obvious. Even a 5-clawed golden dragon looked at him disapprovingly. The Empyrean fairy was obviously nervous. Although she had been through hundreds of battles, she had never experienced such a thing. She was powerless. Could it be that Tang Zheng had a solution? She couldn't think of what Tang Zheng could do. Tang Zheng's hand touched the light screen, and a strong rebounding force immediately bounced his hand away. If he used too much force, his whole body would have been bounced away. Ha! A burst of arrogant laughter sounded. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign mocked mercilessly. So this is your solution. Why didn't it work? Big words. Before he could finish the word shame, his throat seemed to be stuck because he saw an inconceivable and strange scene. A cold light flashed in Tang Zheng's hand. He didn't attack the light screen. Instead, he cut his wrist. Blood spurted out and sprinkled on the white light. What was he doing? Tang Zheng's eyes were extremely calm. He didn't care about the sarcasm of the 100 Faces Star Sovereign, because he had a clear purpose in doing all this. The 100 Change Star Sovereign could not figure out the reason, no matter how hard he racked his brains. However, when he saw that there was no reaction, his expression changed, and the ridicule on his face became even stronger. He laughed wildly without concealing anything. "Ha! It seems that you are at your wit's end. You're so anxious that you actually harmed yourself. Sigh, what a pity. I originally wanted to make you my toy, but it seems that I won't have the chance." The 100 Change Star Sovereign shook his head and sighed, as if it was a pity. Tang Zheng looked straight ahead and turned a deaf ear to him. When the blood sprayed on the light curtain, he quickly stopped the bleeding. With a thought, his fingers moved and a mysterious seal appeared on his fingertips. The tip of his finger lit up with a red light that was as bright as blood. Suddenly, he pointed his finger forward. The red light shot out and landed right on top of the pool of blood, merging with the light screen. A sudden change occurred. The blood seemed to have a life of its own. It spread across the light screen, extending endlessly. It was like a spark of fire that quickly covered the entire light screen. The originally pure white light screen turned blood red, flickering with a demonic light. This change was beyond everyone's expectations. The 100 Change Star Sovereign opened his mouth so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed in. What the hell? What was going on? The 5-clawed golden dragon also wanted to ask the same question, but an ominous premonition gradually crept into its heart. Roar! A dragon roar shook the sky, causing pain in everyone's eardrums. Stop! The 5-clawed golden dragon roared and swept its tail directly at Tang Zheng. The secret chamber was already small, and the 5-clawed golden dragon was too big. It was impossible for it to display its full power. However, the power of this attack was not small. It was enough to severely injure Tang Zheng. However, Tang Zheng did not seem to have seen it and focused on the light screen. Don't even think about it. How could the mysterious maiden of the 9 heavens turn a blind eye to it? Although she was also surprised by Tang Zheng's actions and did not understand the mystery behind it, there was one thing she was sure of, and that was that this might be a turning point. Otherwise, the 5-clawed golden dragon would not have made such a big fuss. The Empyrean fairy blocked the 5-clawed golden dragon. Especially in such a narrow space, she had an innate geographical advantage. The 5-clawed golden dragon could not use its attack, and it could not do anything to the Empyrean fairy. It writhed its body in anger, and the chains rattled. The 100 Change Star Sovereign wanted to stop Tang Zheng, but he could not do anything. This was because he was trapped in a light screen and could only watch as the light screen changed. His expression became abnormally serious, and it was as if a huge rock was pressing down on his heart. Suddenly, Tang Zheng's eyes shone brightly. He roared, "Break!" Crack! A crack appeared on the light screen. Then 2, 3, and 100. In the end, the light screen was covered with cracks like a spider's web. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign was so frightened that he staggered backward and slammed into the light screen behind him. With a rumbling sound, it was like the final straw that crushed the light screen. The light screen completely collapsed and shattered into pieces. However, these fragments did not fall to the ground. Instead, they rose slowly like scarlet stars rising into the sky. The 100 Change Star Sovereign felt an inexplicable strangeness. He even felt a little afraid. Fear? This was the biggest joke in the world. The 100 Change Star Sovereign could actually feel fear. He could not remember how many years it had been since he last felt this way. However, there was no doubt that once he felt this way, it was not a good thing. Without hesitation, he flew backward and retreated out of the formation eye. The red light rose slowly and gathered in midair. Suddenly, Tang Zheng stretched out his hand and shouted, "Gather!" These red lights were like obedient soldiers. They quickly gathered in Tang Zheng's palm and turned into a ball of light the size of a finger. It danced in Tang Zheng's palm like a flame. "What's going on?" The 100 Change Star Sovereign asked in bewilderment. Tang Zheng's lips curled into a mysterious smile. He looked at the 100 change star sovereign meaningfully and said, "You don't know? Didn't you say you were very smart? Why can't you guess?" The 100 change star sovereign's face turned red. "What did you do? Why isn't it shaking anymore?" Unknowingly, the surroundings had stopped shaking and returned to normal. Didn't this mean that the formation had failed? If the formation had been successfully broken, then this space would no longer exist in vain. "Of course it's because I stopped your stupid actions," Tang Zheng said in a mocking tone. He was very pleased with himself. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Chi Yu had actually thought of a way at the last moment. This made him overjoyed. Chi Yu's method was very simple. It was to use blood as a catalyst and use a secret technique to stop the other party from breaking the formation. Of course, this blood was not ordinary blood. It had to be a sufficiently powerful bloodline. A celestial naturally had a sufficiently powerful bloodline. However, just having a powerful bloodline was not enough. It had to be accompanied by a corresponding secret technique. Chi Yu racked his brains and finally found such a secret technique in the depths of his memories. Tang Zheng had used blood as a catalyst, especially the last red light. That was not light, but blood. However, it was Chi Yu's heart's blood. This heart's blood contained Chi Yu's many years of essence, energy, and spirit. This drop of heart's blood was the brush that drew the dragon. Under the activation of the heart's blood, coupled with Tang Zheng's blood and the secret technique, all of this happened naturally. Halfway through, the formation was stopped. The 100 change star sovereign would never have dreamed that this would happen. He had never thought that there would be such a secret technique. However, he did not know that Chi Yu was the leader of the Ninely tribe. The Ninely tribe had many secret techniques that were unknown to others. There were so many that even Chi Yu could not remember them all. Just how did you accomplish all of this? The 100 change star sovereign was unwilling to give up. Why should I tell you? All you need to know is that you have failed. You have nowhere to run, said Tang Zheng with killing intent. You want me to admit defeat? Dream on. I, the 100 change star sovereign, will not be defeated. You're all my puppets. How could I be defeated by my puppets? The 100 change star sovereign was flustered and exasperated. Tang Zheng was just about to prepare to deal with the 100 change star sovereign when the 5-clawed golden dragon's furious roar rang out from behind him. Tang Zheng, you ruined my plans. I won't let you off. Boom! The dragon's tail swept out, and that narrow door was actually shattered. The dragon's tail swept straight in, sweeping towards Tang Zheng. Impudent! The Empyrean fairy sternly shouted. The 5-clawed golden dragon actually ignored her existence. Thus, she once more attacked at lightning speed, clashing with the 5-clawed golden dragon. The words heaven and earth turned upside down were not enough to describe the battle between the two. Fortunately, this was a foreign space. Otherwise, the shockwaves would have spread far and wide. Tang Zheng did not have the time to pay attention to the 5-clawed golden dragon. He was still digesting what he had obtained. Just now, that drop of bright red light in his palm was Chi Yu's heart blood. The heart blood seeped out from his palm, following the blood vessels all the way to Chi Yu's heart. Wherever it passed, Tang Zheng felt a huge amount of energy seeping into his blood. Then, it flowed throughout his body, entering his 8 extraordinary meridians, limbs, and bones. This Tang Zheng was shocked. This Chi Yu's heart blood was really powerful. Moreover, it was mixed with the light screen of the array. Its power was not to be underestimated. Although he had Chi Yu's heart, he had never discovered Chi Yu's heart blood. He did not even know about this matter. Chi Yu's heart, other than maintaining his heartbeat and body skills, was not very important to him. However, it was obvious that he had neglected it. Or rather, Chi Yu could hide it and deceive him. How much more is Chi Yu hiding from me? At that time, he was hiding in my body silently. Just like the inner demons said, he must have had some kind of intention for my body. This Chi Yu's heart must be very important. That was why he repeatedly told him to return it to him after using it. He also said that if the heart blood did not return to Chi Yu's heart, his heart would stop beating and he would die. But now, Tang Zheng felt the powerful energy in this drop of heart blood and gradually had a different idea. Was Qi Yu deceiving him? If the heart blood absorbed the energy of the light screen and returned to his heart, would there be any unexpected changes or consequences? He could clearly feel that after the heart blood absorbed the energy of the light screen, it was stronger than before. If it entered his heart, wouldn't it be Qi Yu's heart that was stronger? His heartstrings trembled. Although Qi Yu could not make any big waves because of the checks and balances of the inner demons, if he had this drop of heart blood, would he become stronger or even take over his body? Chapter 900. Tang Zheng's heart was in turmoil. He could clearly feel that the blood essence was moving towards Qi Yu's heart. The blood essence had not yet returned to Qi Yu's heart and was still under his control. If it returned, it would be too late. Let's take a gamble. Qi Yu definitely did not have any good intentions. This kind of old fox who had lived for tens of thousands of years was shrewd and astute. Tang Zheng knew that he was not his opponent at all. If he was careless, he would fall into his trap. At that time, he might even be sold off and help him count the money. Tang Zheng hurriedly circulated his energy, causing the blood in his heart to stop moving. Suddenly, it changed direction and moved in another direction. Qi Yu was shocked and shouted, "Tang Zheng, what are you doing?" "Nothing," Tang Zheng coldly replied. Qi was not an idiot. He immediately saw through Tang Zheng's intentions. You don't want the blood essence to return to your heart? This blood essence is so useful. I think it's more useful if it stays in your heart. Tang Zheng said, "No, you're wrong. If the blood essence stays outside your heart, then your strength will be greatly reduced." Tang Zheng snorted. "Is that so? Why don't I feel it now?" Qi was startled. He paused and said, "It's still too short, so it hasn't appeared yet. When it does, it will be too late." "I'm not afraid. This is my body, not yours. Why are you so anxious? I'm thinking for you. After all, I'm in your body. We're in the same boat." Qi said earnestly and anxiously. Tang Zheng was still indifferent. The more anxious Qi Yu was, the calmer Tang Zheng was. He had never seen Qi Yu so sad about something before. Even when the 100 Changes Star Lord was about to break the array, he was not so anxious. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Tang Zheng felt that he must have guessed correctly. As expected, Qi was up to no good. He couldn't help but feel a bit of lingering fear. His back was drenched in cold sweat. If he hadn't overthought things and allowed his blood to return to his heart, then everything would have been too late. The two people living in his body were not ordinary people. It was as if he was walking on thin ice. He had to be careful with every step. Close call. It was too dangerous. However, Tang Zheng didn't expose them. Both sides maintained a superficial balance. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good for anyone if they fought to the death. Since the heart blood was so important, it would be better for him to control it and balance Qi Yu. This was more advantageous than letting the inner demons restrain him. After all, the initiative was in his hands. With a thought, Tang Zheng directed his blood to move towards his dantian. "What do you want now?" Qi Yu asked. "I have to find a place for my blood to stay. My dantian is a good place. I'll leave it here for the time being." After Tang Zheng finished speaking, the blood came to his dantian. Under the golden light, the blood was still bright red. It wasn't affected by the golden light. However, the golden pellet suddenly started to rotate, and all the energy in his dantian started to gather towards it, especially the blood in his heart. There were traces of faint red light floating out. After fusing with the golden pellet, Tang Zheng clearly felt that his true qi was slowly rising up. "What are you doing? Stop it! Stop it!" Qi Yu roared as if he was about to lose his life. His voice was almost changing. If he had a face, he would have seen that his face was deformed. "Why are you shouting again?" Tang Zheng was unmoved. Instead, he asked indifferently, "What are you doing?" Qi Yu was so anxious that his voice was hoarse. "Nothing. Nothing yet. Your golden elixir is absorbing the energy of the blood." "Oh, is that so? What's there to be surprised about? Since there's enough energy in the blood, it's not a big deal to add a little to the golden elixir. After all, they're all part of my body. We help and love each other. Tang Zheng said calmly, as if he was used to it. Chi really wanted to say that the blood was his, not his, okay? But he really didn't dare to say it. If he said it so openly, there would be a danger of falling out. Moreover, the blood was in Tang Zheng's hands now. He couldn't do anything. He never thought that it would be such a result. Previously, when Tang Zheng kept urging him to stop, he had a little idea. Chi was a 10,000-year-old fox. He was brave and smart. He had crossed more bridges than Tang Zheng. With a little thought, he came up with a brilliant idea. This idea could solve the crisis in front of him and prevent the Hundred Faces Star Lord from breaking the formation. It could also benefit him endlessly and even change from passive to active. He took the initiative to offer his blood to help Tang Zheng resolve the crisis. What was the blood? This was the source of power for Qi Yu's heart. It was the core of Qi Yu's heart. It was the key to the survival of Qi Yu's soul. Losing the blood was definitely a devastating blow to him. Although it wouldn't immediately cause his soul to scatter, he would never be able to possess another body and be reborn. He had always hidden the blood very well. Tang Zheng had probed Qi Yu's heart countless times, but he didn't find it. When the blood absorbed the energy in the light screen, the energy contained in the blood would be very strong. When it returned to his heart, Qi Yu's soul would also become very strong. In time, he would be able to surpass Tang Zheng, take over the host, and be reborn. This was Qi Yu's plan that he thought was flawless. With Tang Zheng's experience, he definitely wouldn't be able to see through it. Moreover, at this critical moment, Tang Zheng definitely wouldn't think too much about it. Then, he could complete all of this without anyone noticing. However, things didn't go as he wished. He never expected that Tang Zheng would think one more step after sensing the surging energy in the blood. Just this one small step caused him to lose the entire game. He lost completely. Once the blood left Qi Yu's heart and entered Tang Zheng's body, it naturally wouldn't be under Qi Yu's control. This was also why he never dared to take out the blood easily. There were too many unknown variables. He was always hunting geese, but he was pecked in the eye by the geese. Qi Yu suffered in silence. He couldn't speak of his bitterness. He hated it. Why was he so stupid? Why did he come up with such a stupid idea that he thought was perfect, but in fact, it was extremely bad? Moreover, he couldn't say it out loud. Qi Yu's heart was bleeding as he watched his gold core absorb the energy in the blood. It was like a blunt knife stabbing into his heart and gouging out large chunks of flesh. Tang Zheng didn't care whether Qi Yu's heart was bleeding or not. In any case, he had already confirmed that Qi Yu really didn't have good intentions. One of his feet had already stepped off the cliff, and he almost fell down and shattered his bones. One shouldn't have the intention to harm others, but one should always be on guard against others. This sentence wasn't deceiving him. If Qi Yu didn't want to harm him, he wouldn't have gone for wool and come home shorn. As for absorbing the energy in the blood, Tang Zheng didn't feel burdened. However, the energy contained in the blood was very strong. He couldn't absorb it all in a short time. At this moment, he had already absorbed enough energy. It was even more than the energy in the crystal. True Qi rushed up and overturned rivers and seas. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and bloomed with joy. Ah, my cultivation has broken through again. I've reached the 8th stage of the Gold Core realm. It's really a blessing in disguise. Tang Zheng, you're absorbing my blood to improve your cultivation. Qi wanted to die and asked hoarsely, why can't I? This is my blood. Didn't I say it before? You're my body. What's yours is mine. You and I are in the same body. Why are you so clear about it? Tang Zheng's words almost made Qi Yu vomit blood. However, he didn't give up. Qi wanted to trick him. He couldn't encourage this evil trend, so he immediately released the inner demons. Although the inner demons couldn't speak, they were watching coldly from the sidelines. They had already seen everything clearly. Immediately, they couldn't help but laugh wildly. Ha ha! Qi Yu, you'll also have a day like this. How about it? You still want to trick Tang Zheng. Now you know what it's like. The inner demons saw through Qi Yu's thoughts clearly. Qi Yu didn't admit it. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm helping him. The inner demons snorted. Do you really think that other than yourself, everyone in the world is a fool? The inner demons changed the topic and began to flatter Tang Zheng. Young man, you're really smart. You saw through his sinister intentions at a glance. Let me tell you, this blood is very useful. After you absorb its energy, your cultivation will increase. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't say a word. The inner demons continued. You and Qi Yu are in a state of rising and falling. The more energy you absorb from the blood, the weaker his strength will be. Don't you think this is a good thing? Tang Zheng was overjoyed. This was, of course, a good thing. Tang Zheng, don't listen to the inner demon's nonsense. He's setting a trap for us. He's killing two birds with one stone. Once my strength decreases, he'll gain the upper hand. Won't you be in danger? You have to be on guard against his evil intentions. He's not a kind person. Qi Yu hurriedly reminded. Tang Zheng's heart sank. These two old foxes were indeed not easy to deal with. Every word was a trap. They were digging a hole for him to jump into. Fortunately, there were two checks and balances. If there was only one, it would be a tragedy for him. It seemed that although the blood was good, it couldn't absorb too much energy. Otherwise, Qi Yu's strength would be too weak. In the future, he would be suppressed by the inner demons. Then, there would be no way to keep him in check. However, it shouldn't hurt to absorb a little energy occasionally. After all, Qi was so powerful. A little energy leaked out from under his fingernails would be enough for Tang Zheng to digest slowly. Young man, don't listen to Qi Yu's nonsense. I'm doing this for your own good. Say, when your cultivation is powerful, will you still have to worry about the 100 Faces Star-Lord in the future? You can crush him with one finger. Strength is the most important thing. The inner demons said earnestly. Tang Zheng snorted. Strength was the most important thing. His life was the most important thing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to enjoy it even if he had strength. Inner demon, do you think you can hide your vicious thoughts with your flowery words? Tang Zheng isn't a fool. He won't be deceived by you. Qi Yu retorted. The inner demons wanted to refute again. Tang Zheng couldn't stand it anymore. He shouted at them to shut up. Immediately, the two couldn't even let out a fart. Chapter 901. The 100 Change Star Sovereign looked at Tang Zheng in shock. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation had broken through again. This was too strange. Tang Zheng's attention shifted from the heart blood to the outside world. He saw the Empyrean Fairy and the five-clawed golden dragon fighting intensely. Thus, his gaze landed on the 100 Change Star Sovereign. The 100 Change Star Sovereign snorted and said, Tang Zheng, how did you do all this? Tang Zheng smiled faintly. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean that I can't do it. Didn't you say that Skywalkers are nothing special? The 100 Change Star Sovereign knew that he had been slapped in the face. He blushed and said, You can stop me once, but can you stop me a second time? Then we can give it a try. Tang Zheng's victory was in his hands. It was not that he was arrogant, but at this moment, he was no longer afraid of the 100 Change Star Sovereign. Why? Because Qi Yu's method had another miraculous effect, and that was that the heart blood absorbed the energy of the formation, and the heart blood could control the formation. If Tang Zheng could control the heart blood, then he could naturally control the formation. This was the key. Although he could not control the formation to let the five-clawed golden dragon go, whoever wanted to break the formation would have to go through him. This was thousands of times more difficult than the original method. Even the 100 Change Star Sovereign could forget about breaking the formation. If he wanted to break the formation, he would have to rely on Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng still had some lingering fear. If the heart blood returned to the heart, then Qi Yu would be able to control the formation. Perhaps even the five-clawed golden dragon would not be able to escape from his grasp. It was truly a good plan. Unfortunately, Tang Zheng intercepted him halfway, causing his plan to fail. The 100 Change Star Sovereign did not know this, but he did not plan to break the formation immediately. Otherwise, if Tang Zheng destroyed it again, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Thus, he flashed and attacked Tang Zheng. He roared, It won't be too late to break the formation after I kill you first. Although Tang Zheng had a breakthrough in his cultivation, there was still a world of difference between him and the 100 Faces Star Sovereign. However, he did not back down. He waved his hand and shot out a shooting sun arrow. Now that he had 9 arrows in hand, his confidence was greatly boosted. Whoosh, 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 he shot 3 arrows in succession. The 100 transformations, Star Sovereign had no choice but to dodge, and his attacks were greatly reduced. The shooting sun arrow was nailed to the wall, and its feathers were still trembling. Tang Zheng did not stop. He continuously shot out the remaining 5 shooting sun arrows. The 5 shooting sun arrows formed a front and back formation. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign did the same in an attempt to dodge the shooting sun arrow. And indeed he did. The shooting sun arrow shot towards the wall. The 100 Change Star Sovereign smiled proudly and said, "Do you still have arrows? Let's see what other tricks you have up your sleeve." Tang Zheng's expression changed slightly. The 8 shooting sun arrows had not injured the 100 Change Star Sovereign at all. The difference in strength between the two was too great. If I was in the Ghost Realm and lost 1 shooting sun arrow, I would gather 9 shooting sun arrows. The power would definitely be stronger, and I would definitely not let the 100 Faces Star Sovereign off so easily. Tang Zheng was very regretful. Seeing the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's attack in front of him, he calmly raised the War Soul and stabbed out. The Empyrean Fairy had been silently paying attention to Tang Zheng. Seeing him fighting against the 100 Faces Star Sovereign alone, she quickly shouted, "Tang Zheng, be careful. Leave first, I will hold him back." "Don't worry, I won't leave you behind." Tang Zheng used the heaven-flying immortal sword technique and fought against the 100 Faces Star Sovereign. He now realized a problem. Although the heaven-flying immortal sword technique was powerful, it seemed to be a little difficult to deal with opponents who were getting more and more powerful. His top priority was to cultivate a more powerful sword technique or other techniques. Of course, he could only rely on the Langia Pavilion to achieve this goal. Now that he had painstaking efforts, he was confident that he could make a breakthrough in the Dragon God technique and reach a higher level in the Langia Pavilion. Hearing Tang Zheng's words, the 100 Faces Star Sovereign laughed. "Haha, you have guts. Let's see if you still have this kind of courage when you're about to die." The Empyrean Fairy was extremely anxious. It was easy for her to leave. Even the 5-clawed golden dragon and the 100 Faces Star Sovereign could not stop her. But Tang Zheng was determined to stay, so she had no way to leave. "Let's go. I'll bring up the rear," she urged again. Tang Zheng was indifferent and said, "If we just leave like this, won't they be very happy? If the enemy is happy, I will be very unhappy." "You!" The Empyrean Fairy was speechless and glared at him fiercely. Tang Zheng retreated to the side and said, "Actually, we don't need to fight. Isn't he going to break the formation? Just let him break it. We'll witness it with our own eyes. Hee." The Empyrean Fairy was extremely intelligent and heard the hidden meaning in his words. She asked suspiciously, "What do you mean?" "I said that there's no need to fight. What's the point of making such a big fuss? It's just a waste of true qi." Tang Zheng narrowly avoided the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's attack and retreated to the Empyrean Fairy's side. The Empyrean Fairy looked at him skeptically and asked, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Tang Zheng put away the War Soul Sword. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign attacked again, but was blocked by the Empyrean Fairy. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign had no choice but to retreat. His expression was cold as he said, "Tang Zheng, do you really want me to break the formation again? Of course, this time I'll just stand by and watch. I definitely won't make a move. I just want to see how you break the formation." Tang Zheng crossed his arms and said calmly, "What exactly are you selling in your gourd?" The 100 Faces Star Sovereign asked. Tang Zheng smiled and did not answer. The 5-clawed golden dragon impatiently urged, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? Since that's the case, then hurry up and break the formation. When I get out, there won't be a problem at all." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign felt a little uneasy. Tang Zheng's reaction was too unusual, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was. Since that's the case, then I'll fulfill your wish. But don't regret it later." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign said fiercely, "I won't regret it. Please do as you wish." The Empyrean fairy knew that Tang Zheng wouldn't do anything unprepared. She quietly poked Tang Zheng's arm and asked in a low voice, "What exactly do you want to do? Pay attention. You'll know in a while." Tang Zheng purposely kept her in suspense. The Empyrean fairy was helpless. She rolled her eyes at him. She could only wait and see for the time being. However, she didn't relax her vigilance. If the situation was not right, she would definitely not stand idly by. The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign's big black eyes rolled as he thoughtfully looked at Tang Zheng. His eyes lit up and the corners of his mouth raised into a smile as he said, "You want to use the same trick again, right? Hee hee, I won't give you the chance." This time, he didn't stand in the center of the formation. Instead, he stood outside the formation. Break the formation. A pure white energy rose from the ground, and the white light screen appeared again. The Empyrean fairy's heart tightened. Her arms were straight, ready to attack at any time. Tang Zheng faintly smiled. "Don't be nervous. I know what I'm doing." The Empyrean fairy really wanted to ask him what he was thinking. The other party was the Hundred Faces Star Sovereign, not some random cat or dog. If he succeeded, then not to mention Tang Zheng, even she wouldn't be able to do anything. However, Tang Zheng had a confident look on his face. It was as if he didn't see her worry at all. The five-clawed golden dragon opened his eyes wide and excitedly twisted his body. Especially when he saw the light curtain, his eyes erupted with a terrifying light. It was as if the door to freedom was slowly opening for him. Boom, boom, boom. The earth seemed to tremble again. The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign proudly turned around to look at Tang Zheng and said, "This time I'm outside the formation. If you want to cause trouble, I can easily stop you. Let's see what you can do then." This is what you asked for. So, I'll let you see with your own eyes that I successfully break the formation. This way you can die in peace. Tang Zheng took a step forward and said, "Who said I would die? After breaking the formation, you will die without a doubt." The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign said decisively. Tang Zheng snorted coldly. "Who said you would succeed? Even if you want to interfere, you can't do anything. With me here, you can't do anything." The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign also took a step forward and closed the distance between him and Tang Zheng. His jade-like face was filled with experience and spiciness that didn't match his appearance. It was also filled with a sense of ridicule. "Is that so?" Tang Zheng said lightly. He casually pointed at the light curtain and asked, "Then look behind you. What's going on?" The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign laughed loudly. "You want to use this kind of trick to trick a 3-year-old child to trick me? What will happen behind me? Nothing will happen." The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign was so confident that it was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. "Tang Zheng, what did you do?" The five-clawed golden dragon roared in shock, staring at the eye of the formation in disbelief. Seeing this, the Hundred Faces Star Sovereign's heart skipped a beat. He had an ominous premonition. Could it be that something really happened behind him? Otherwise, why would the five-clawed golden dragon have such a big reaction? He couldn't care less about ridiculing Tang Zheng anymore. He suddenly turned around. Suddenly, his mouth opened so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed into it. The light curtain was actually retreating back to the ground bit by bit, and the shaking was getting weaker and weaker. In the blink of an eye, the light curtain disappeared from the ground, and everything returned to normal. The formation had failed. The Hundred Transformation Star Lord acted as if he had seen a ghost as he shouted, "Tang Zheng, what did you do? Didn't you tell me not to do anything?" "I didn't do anything." Tang Zheng raised his hands and said with a smile, "You're lying to a child. You didn't do anything." The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign said angrily, "Aren't you a child?" "I'm not a child. I'm the Hundred Faces Star Sovereign." The Hundred Faces Star Sovereign roared and pointed at Tang Zheng. He was flustered and exasperated. "What did you do?" The Empyrean Fairy and the five-clawed golden dragon also looked at Tang Zheng. It turned out that he already had a way to make sure that the Hundred Faces Star Sovereign couldn't break the formation. That was why he was so confident. In fact, this was also an experiment for Tang Zheng. Although Qi Yu had always said that he could control the formation, there was no proof. Moreover, Qi was always talking nonsense. He didn't know whether what he said was true or not, so it was best to put it into practice. He didn't expect the practice to be so successful. He immediately had a kind of connection with the formation when he controlled the heart's blood and took control of the formation. Chapter 902. Looking at the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's bewildered expression, Tangjung finally revealed the answer. I have already controlled this great array, so of course you can't break it. What? You controlled this great array? Not only the 100 Faces Star Sovereign, but even the Empyrean Fairy and the 5-clawed Golden Dragon exclaimed in disbelief. Exactly. Tangjung had already expected their reaction and was not surprised. How did you do it? This time it was the 5-clawed Golden Dragon who asked. It had been imprisoned by this great array for hundreds of years, so of course it knew how powerful it was. It could not understand. It had tried so hard for so many years but still failed to break the array, but Tangjung actually had a way to control it. This was not scientific. Tangjung glanced at the 5-clawed Golden Dragon and could guess its thoughts. It had probably fallen from the clouds into the abyss. The 5-clawed Golden Dragon did not hesitate to fall out with Tangjung and even fought because it thought that it could regain its freedom without Tangjung's help. But now all of this was like a bubble that burst with a pop, not leaving any hope for it. Tangjung said, "Just now when I stopped the 100 Faces Star Sovereign from breaking the array, I did it. Otherwise, do you really think that my blood was spilled for nothing? No, I have never heard of this kind of magic." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign shook its head like a rattle drum. "You don't know, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist." Tangjung said jokingly, "Do you know what kind of array this is? You dare to boast that you controlled the Great Array?" The 5-clawed Golden Dragon said indignantly, "Of course I know. In the past, Tangjung did not know, but after he controlled the formation, he knew everything about it clearly. Furthermore, he knew how to set up this formation now. This great array was called the Heaven and Earth Soul Suppressing Array. It used the Heaven and Earth's fate and the Heaven and Earth Profound Stone as the eye of the array. This kind of array was enough to suppress countless vengeful spirits and ghosts. With the addition of the Heaven and Earth Profound Stone, even the 5-clawed Golden Dragon was no exception. Of course, there was a drawback to this formation, and that was that the stronger the formation was, the more karmic luck it had to gather. Suppressing the 5-clawed Golden Dragon naturally required a lot of luck, so the luck of Heaven and Earth changed drastically. When the destiny of Heaven and Earth changed, the country was naturally affected. Later on, the destiny of that dynasty became worse and worse, and it was even invaded by the foreign tribes. The cultivators were expelled and then ruled by the foreign tribes for hundreds of years. Then, foreign enemies invaded and ravaged the land, turning Huaxia into a sea of corpses. All of this had to do with the Heaven and Earth Soul Suppressing Array. If not for this array, perhaps Huaxia's landscape would be completely different. It could be said that in order to absorb the dragon Qi, the emperor did a foolish thing that did more harm than good and caused hundreds of years of harm. For the sake of his own interests, he didn't care about Huaxia. If the array was broken, Huaxia's karmic luck wouldn't continue to be absorbed by the array. Then, Huaxia's karmic luck would undergo a tremendous change. Perhaps it would rise again and stand at the highest peak of the world. However, even so, Tangjung wouldn't break the array easily and let the 5-clawed Golden Dragon out. With its current temper, it wouldn't be Huaxia's karmic luck, but a catastrophe. You actually know the information about this array. Seeing Tangjung's confident expression, the 5-clawed Golden Dragon found it unbelievable. It gradually believed that Tangjung really controlled this array. It was filled with sorrow, and its eyes became dim. Although the 100-change Star Lord didn't know what the array was, he knew that it was over when he saw the 5-clawed Golden Dragon's reaction. He was unwilling. He had put in so much effort and even sacrificed Orochi. Success was in sight, but it was ruined by Tangjung. Was there any justice in this? However, no matter how he thought, there was no way to change the situation. The situation was not good, and the best strategy was to escape. Whoosh! He moved his feet and directly rushed into the tunnel, disappearing in the blink of an eye. You want to escape? It's not that easy. Tang Zheng controlled the array. With a thought, a terrifying force gathered from all directions toward the 100-change Star Lord. The 100-change Star Lord hurriedly cast a spell, trying to break through the array and leave this damn place. However, his expression changed as he realized that it was easy to get in but difficult to get out. Feeling the terrifying power coming from all directions, his heart was burning with anxiety. He cut his finger, and his finger was dyed red with blood. He drew a series of strange runes in the void. Break! He disappeared on the spot and returned to the Imperial City. However, when his feet landed on the ground, puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned pale. Obviously, he had exhausted a lot of energy in order to escape from the array. Moreover, the overwhelming force was enough to make him suffer. He was injured by Tang Zheng. This was something he had never expected, but it happened just like that. Although Tang Zheng relied on the power of the array, he had seriously injured him. He was angry and resentful, but now was not the time to be resentful. He had to leave before his opponent caught up. The appearance of the 100-change Star Lord attracted everyone's attention. Many people guessed that the huge commotion in the capital had something to do with these people who had disappeared, especially the light that rushed into the sky, which was even more frightening. At this moment, the light had disappeared and the ground had stopped shaking. Seeing the person involved, many people's nerves were straight. Tian Chanzi panicked when he saw the 100-change Star Lord. Could it be that Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy had encountered some accident below? Before he could ask, he saw the 100-transformation Star Sovereign soar into the sky, as if his life depended on it, flying into the distance. When he reacted, the other party had disappeared. The 100-change Star Lord was an expert, after all. Although he was injured, he was still not someone Tian Chanzi could catch up with. At this moment, the Empyrean Fairy also caught up and asked, "Where is the 100-change Star Lord?" When he saw the valiant and heroic Empyrean Fairy, Tian Chanzi immediately calmed down. The panic in his heart also disappeared. He hurriedly asked, he escaped. What happened? Where is Tang Zheng? Escaped? The Empyrean Fairy looked up at the dark sky. Even the stars could not be seen, let alone the 100-change Star Lord. She stomped her foot fiercely. It was a pity that the 100-change Star Lord had escaped. However, this kind of expert was very difficult to get rid of, so it was not a surprise. Tian Chanzi wanted to ask more, but the Empyrean Fairy said indifferently, "Tang Zheng is fine." Then she turned around and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. At this point, there was no need to hide. She might as well be honest. The Empyrean Fairy returned mainly because she was worried about Tang Zheng's safety. After all, he and the five-clawed golden dragon had turned against each other. If he was left alone, the five-clawed golden dragon would go crazy and hurt him. However, when she arrived at the hall, she found Tang Zheng standing in front of the five-clawed golden dragon safe and sound. The five-clawed golden dragon's head was drooping. It was a veritable general of a defeated army. Tang Zheng looked at the five-clawed golden dragon coldly. An invisible pressure spread out, and even the dragon chi in his body involuntarily leaked out. The Empyrean Fairy saw this scene, and her heart skipped a beat, but she did not say anything. Five-clawed golden dragon, now that the 100-change Star Lord has escaped, your hope of regaining freedom has been shattered. How do you feel? Tang Zheng asked. The five-clawed golden dragon did not dare to look at Tang Zheng's eyes. It lowered its head and did not say a word. Speak. Are you mute? Tang Zheng roared angrily. The five-clawed golden dragon finally raised its head and looked at Tang Zheng unwillingly. Although its dragon chi was still there, its momentum was completely gone. After hesitating for a long time, it finally squeezed out 4 words. You're good. I'm good. I almost died at the hands of you and the 100-change Star Lord. Tang Zheng laughed self-deprecatingly. Five-clawed golden dragon, you broke our agreement without permission. What do you think I should do? Can you still kill me? The five-clawed golden dragon asked. Of course I can't kill you. It's not easy to slay a dragon. I don't have that ability. Tang Zheng told the truth. Even if it was the Empyrean fairy, it would not be easy to kill the five-clawed golden dragon. After all, the other party was a dragon. Although I can't kill you, I can imprison you for generations to come. Thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, 100,000 years, until you die of old age. Tang Zheng's tone was very calm, but it made the five-clawed golden dragon tremble. The reason why it wanted to go out was because of its desire for freedom. It did not want to be imprisoned until it died. There was no doubt that these words hit its weak spot. Moreover, it couldn't do anything to Tang Zheng. If it really killed him, then the array formation would be under Tang Zheng's control. He could completely make it so that no one else would be able to find this array formation, let alone break the array formation and release it. The five-clawed golden dragon knew this too well. Therefore, even if Tang Zheng was standing in front of it and it was unable to restrain its anger, it did not dare to do anything to Tang Zheng. "What do you want?" The five-clawed golden dragon asked helplessly, its aura weakening a little. Tang Zheng's eyes flickered, and a bold idea came to his mind, to make the five-clawed golden dragon submit to him. Make a dragon submit? Wasn't that bold? It was simply crazy. Since ancient times, many emperors had considered themselves as the true dragon, the son of heaven. However, that was only to deceive the common people. No one had ever made a dragon submit to them. Even the emperor who had built this imperial city back then had not been able to do so. Tang Zheng wanted to create a precedent and make the five-clawed golden dragon submit. If other people knew, they would definitely say that he was delusional. This was simply impossible. However, Tang Zheng liked to challenge the impossible. He had encountered too many impossibilities along the way, but through hard work, he could always find a way to solve them. Now that he had the initiative and had the advantage, he did not believe that he could not do this. The Empyrean fairy looked at him without blinking. She could not guess his thoughts. Of course, if she knew, she would probably be shocked. Tang Zheng took a deep breath and encouraged himself. He coldly looked at the five-clawed golden dragon. It was a little overwhelmed by this gaze and hurriedly said, "What do you want?" "I want you to submit to me. From now on, you will only listen to my orders." Tang Zheng pointed at the five-clawed golden dragon and said without stopping, Chapter 903. The Empyrean fairy thought she had misheard and looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously. However, seeing his serious expression, it turned out that she had not misheard. He really did want the five-clawed golden dragon to submit to him. She was at a loss for words. She could not find a word to describe this action. It seemed that any word would be pale and powerless. Her heart beat wildly. How could he dare to have such an idea? But when she thought about the huge gains that would follow if he really succeeded, she could not help but feel excited. With a dragon submitting to him, his strength would naturally soar. If the five-clawed golden dragon escaped, she was afraid that even she would not be able to do anything to Tang Zheng. She could not help but admire Tang Zheng's courage. Taking risks in chess, the gains were proportional to the risks. The five-clawed golden dragon's originally large eyes widened even more as it stared straight at Tang Zheng. A soul-stirring dragon's might slowly accumulated and climbed. In the end, it accumulated to a peak. It was as if Mount High was pressing down, causing people to be unable to breathe. Even the Empyrean fairy felt as if a stone was pressing down on her chest. From this, it could be seen how angry the five-clawed golden dragon was. On the other hand, although Tang Zheng's expression was somewhat ugly, he still did not shrink back and bitterly held on. "You are insulting me, insulting the dragon clan." The five-clawed golden dragon finally opened its mouth, but its voice was like rolling thunder, exploding in the hall. The air violently fluctuated as if it was about to boil. The anger of a true dragon was extraordinary. Tang Zheng was like a small boat in the storm, allowing the stormy waves to hit him. He floated and sank, but was not overturned by the huge waves. He resisted the huge pressure and looked indifferently at the five-clawed golden dragon, saying, "I did not insult the dragon clan." The implication was that he had insulted the dragon, But what could the dragon do to him? Dragons were high and mighty existences. They were arrogant by nature and looked down on everything. The five-clawed golden dragon was no exception. But now it was being openly provoked and insulted by Tang Zheng. This was equivalent to ruthlessly stepping on it. Too vile. This was the effect that Tang Zheng wanted. The five-clawed golden dragon was too arrogant. If he didn't completely trample it under his feet, it would never truly submit. These words fanned the flames of anger in the five-clawed golden dragon's heart. With a heaven-shaking dragon roar, it opened its mouth wide and dove down towards Tang Zheng. The strong dragon breath blew up a whirlwind, blowing Tang Zheng left and right, but his legs seemed to be rooted, and he did not move an inch. "I'm going to eat you," the five-clawed golden dragon roared. "Eat me, and you will be imprisoned here forever, never to see the light of day." Tang Zheng said lightly. The five-clawed golden dragon looked as if it was struck by lightning. Its mouth stopped right in front of Tang Zheng. Its dragon breath blew away Tang Zheng's hair, and its dragon whiskers directly stuck to Tang Zheng's cheek. Tang Zheng didn't even blink as he circulated the dragon god technique. Dragon's might gradually spread out, neutralizing the opponent's overwhelming aura. "Imprisoned here forever, never to see the light of day." These words echoed in the five-clawed golden dragon's mind like a curse, causing it to shudder. Although it was high and mighty, it was still afraid. This was what it was most afraid of right now. It was already afraid of being imprisoned. Tang Zheng's eyes gradually revealed a trace of a smile. He had made the right bet. The five-clawed golden dragon's reaction made him very satisfied. He wanted to add more fuel to the fire. "If you submit to me, I promise to save you." "Impossible. How can my dragon race submit to you humans?" The five-clawed golden dragon retorted loudly. "Human? Hee, I cultivate the dragon god technique. Didn't you always say that I'm not human?" Tang Zheng found a reason for the other party, allowing its brain to turn around, which was equivalent to giving it a way out. Dragon god technique. When the Empyrean fairy heard this, her eyelids twitched. She knew that the dragon race had many secrets and many mysterious techniques. Without a doubt, this dragon god technique was probably one of them. Tang Zheng actually cultivated the dragon god technique. No wonder the dragon chi and dragons might involuntarily spread out just now. This was a secret she had never known. She thought to herself that Tang Zheng really hid it well. She was actually very curious about the dragon race, like the 100-Change Star-Lord. After all, humans knew very little about this race. The less they knew, the more mysterious they were. It was precisely because of this that humans worshipped them as spiritual totems. The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes flickered, as if it was thinking about Tang Zheng's words. When Tang Zheng cultivated the dragon seal, it once said that Tang Zheng didn't look like a human, but a dragon, because it had never heard of a human being able to cultivate the dragon seal. Of course, this was also related to the fact that the dragon god technique was rarely taught to outsiders. When the five-clawed golden dragon taught Tang Zheng the dragon god technique, it never thought that he would be able to cultivate the dragon seal and reach the Langya Pavilion. At that time, it just wanted to raise Tang Zheng's cultivation. After all, the dragon god technique was very mysterious. If cultivated properly, it could indeed raise one's cultivation. However, the dragon god technique was definitely not the core technique of the dragon race. That was why it dared to teach Tang Zheng. "You really don't look like a human in many ways," the five-clawed golden dragon said. This was exactly the same as what Tian Chanzi once said. "Then it's settled. Why can't you submit to a dragon?" Tang Zheng asked back. In the dragon race, the strong were respected. The weak submitting to the strong was a matter of course. But this matter seemed to be a little different. First of all, Tang Zheng's strength couldn't be compared to the five-clawed golden dragon. This was the strong submitting to the weak. Secondly, although Tang Zheng said that he was equivalent to a dragon, looking left and right, other than the dragon seal, he didn't look like a dragon at all. He was simply a human. He was obviously deliberately confusing it. The five-clawed golden dragon didn't fall for it. It refused without hesitation. In your dreams. I will never submit to you. Tang Zheng frowned. What a stubborn person. Since you don't want to listen to me, I can only use force. Tang Zheng's face gradually became gloomy. It was like 10,000-year-old ice. It was so cold that it made people's hearts tremble. The five-clawed golden dragon's heart jumped. What was he going to do? But then it thought that with its own strength, it couldn't do anything to it. It snorted disdainfully. The Empyrean fairy was also very curious about what other tricks Tang Zheng had. She stared at him with eyes full of splendor. She had to admit that she got to know Tang Zheng again. She had a strong feeling of anticipation for what would happen next. Let's see how long you can be stubborn. With a thought, Tang Zheng caused a slight change in the space around him, causing ripples to appear one after another. At the same time, the chains on the five-clawed golden dragon's claws began to glow. The dark light even covered the golden light of the dragon's scales. What are you doing? The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes twitched wildly and asked anxiously. You'll know in a while. Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously and hurriedly activated the heaven and earth soul suppressing formation. The light of the chains became more and more intense. Roar! Suddenly, a dragon's roar burst out from the five-clawed golden dragon's throat. It shook the sky. This dragon's roar was mixed with pain. It was a bone-deep pain. Tang Zheng and the Empyrean fairy both felt it. Tang Zheng was as hard as iron. He endured it and wasn't affected. The Empyrean fairy's eyes were full of splendor. She stared at the chains and wondered how Tang Zheng did it. The five-clawed golden dragon roared, "What are you doing? Stop it!" Tang Zheng was unmoved and asked lightly, "You don't know what the chains on your dragon claws are, do you?" The five-clawed golden dragon really didn't know. It tried many times, but couldn't break free from the chains. "What is it?" "It's made of 9 serenities dark iron." "What? 9 serenities dark iron?" The five-clawed golden dragon and the Empyrean fairy exclaimed at the same time. They knew very well what the 9 serenities dark iron was, but they had never seen it with their own eyes. It was said that the 9 serenities dark iron was a dark iron taken from the 9 serenities of the ghost realm. It was born from the yin qi of the ghost realm. If it was made into a magic weapon, it would definitely be an unprecedented magic weapon. It was impervious to water and fire and extremely difficult to destroy. No one would have thought that someone would use this kind of dark iron to make a chain to bind the five-clawed golden dragon. It was too wasteful. Tang Zheng didn't know what the 9 serenities dark iron was before. After he controlled the heaven and earth soul suppressing formation, he knew about the 5 chains that were integrated with the formation. When he heard the words 9 serenities dark iron, he didn't have much of a reaction, but the inner demons immediately explained it to him. Only then did he know that the chain that he had seen countless times had such a great deal of attention. The person who imprisoned the five-clawed golden dragon back then really took a lot of effort. Tang Zheng looked at the 5 chains and couldn't help but feel a little jealous. If these chains were used to refine magic weapons, the level of the magic weapons would definitely not be low. The 9 serenities dark iron has a remarkable characteristic, and that is, it can stretch and shrink freely. This chain has been integrated with the formation. As long as I move my mind, the chain will shrink. Do you think your dragon claws can withstand it? The five-clawed golden dragon was silent. Even if your dragon claws have rough skin and thick flesh and won't be broken, after a long time, your blood and qi won't be able to flow. Hee, I'm afraid it will be crippled. Even if you regain your freedom in the future, if your dragon claws are crippled, how much strength do you think you will have left? Tang Zheng's words poked at the five-clawed golden dragon's weak spot. In the future, it would definitely want to return to the dragon clan. If its dragon claws were destroyed, its strength would plummet, and there would be no possibility of recovery. They would become the weakest at the bottom. In the world of the dragon clan, where the strong preyed on the weak, it would be trampled on at will. That kind of life would be even more terrifying than being imprisoned here. Just thinking about it made its heart tremble. It didn't dare to think more. The five-clawed golden dragon was still groaning in pain. Looking at the incomparably calm Tang Zheng, it really wanted to tear him apart and swallow him into its stomach. Have you thought about it? I only used a little strength. If I use a little more strength, then your dragon claws will really be crippled. Tang Zheng blatantly threatened. The Empyrean fairy couldn't help but envy Tang Zheng. This kind of experience was something that ordinary people wouldn't even dare to dream of. It was really desirable to be able to threaten a dragon. The pain in the five-clawed golden dragon's eyes became more and more intense. Its body even twitched, and its proud head drooped down. Chapter 904. These three words were like the sound of nature, making the stone in Tang Zheng's heart completely fall to the ground. The corner of his mouth hooked up a faint smile. Words are no guarantee. If one day you get out of trouble, wouldn't it be easy for you to go back on your words? Maybe you will even kill me. Tang Zheng's words made the five-clawed golden dragon's heart tremble. He looked at him in disbelief. Could it be that he could read minds? He could even see through the deepest thoughts in his heart. Of course, Tang Zheng could not read minds. It was just the most instinctive precaution. The five-clawed golden dragon was used to being arrogant. It was not as simple as just saying a few words to make it bow down. There must be a perfect plan. Then what do you want? The five-clawed golden dragon asked. Tang Zheng was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, he looked at the Empyrean fairy and asked, "You should have a spell to control it, right?" The Empyrean fairy was slightly stunned and understood his thoughts. The five-clawed golden dragon also understood and flew into a rage. "You want to use a spell to control me?" Tang Zheng shrugged and said, "I like to be a villain first, then a gentleman. I'm always too weak in front of you. If there is no insurance, then it will be too late to regret it in the future. You can rest assured that as long as you sincerely submit to me, how can I harm you?" The five-clawed golden dragon was angry, his mouth spitting out dragon's breath. His eyes were uncertain. His plan had failed. Chew! He originally planned to feign civility and deal with Tang Zheng after he got out of trouble in the future. He did not expect that he had already taken precautions. If he really let him use a spell to control it, then it would be seeking its own death if it had second thoughts. You? The five-clawed golden dragon was speechless. If he forcibly opposed, then wouldn't it mean that he had second thoughts? This was a confession without being pressed. But if he did not oppose, then he would have no chance to resist in the future. He was in a dilemma. The mysterious maiden of the nine heavens understood its thoughts and was even more aware of Tang Zheng's fear. So she added, "Of course I have this kind of spell. The soul imprint is the best way." "Oh, soul imprint?" "Yes, the soul brand won't do any harm to it, but once you use it, its soul will be in danger. This is the only way to control it." Hearing the words soul brand, a trace of panic flashed through the five-clawed golden dragon's eyes. Of course, it knew the power of this spell. Apart from a caster, no one could undo this brand. Therefore, it had to respect Tang Zheng as its master for all eternity. Tang Zheng could destroy it with a single thought. It was simply heaven-defying. However, your cultivation is still weak. The soul brand can only succeed if it doesn't resist at all, the Empyrean fairy added. The 100-change Star Sovereign had also wanted to use the soul brand to control the five-clawed golden dragon. He could only succeed when the five-clawed golden dragon was at its weakest. On the other hand, Tang Zheng's cultivation was too weak. If the five-clawed golden dragon had any thoughts of resistance, he would never succeed. Therefore, the Empyrean fairy added this point. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at the Empyrean fairy hatefully. It thought that this couple was too cunning. They had blocked all its escape routes. Tang Zheng nodded and looked at the five-clawed golden dragon aggressively. "Have you thought about it?" The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes flashed with despair. At this point, there was no time for it to think, let alone refuse. It looked at Tang Zheng with hatred. Why didn't it think that things would come to this point? If it hadn't agreed to the 100-change Star Sovereign's request and turned against Tang Zheng, it wouldn't have fallen into this desperate situation. All of this was its own fault. No, it was the 100-change Star Sovereign's fault. It blamed all of its anger on the 100-change Star Sovereign. It made up its mind that if it met him again in the future, it would definitely not let him have an easy time. "I promise you," the five-clawed golden dragon said helplessly. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. "There's no time to lose. Let's start now. This is the first step to building mutual trust." The five-clawed golden dragon couldn't object. The Empyrean fairy quickly passed on the soul brand technique to Tang Zheng. In fact, this technique was very simple. Tang Zheng didn't take long to learn it. "Let's start." Tang Zheng looked at the five-clawed golden dragon. The five-clawed golden dragon lowered its head so deeply that its whiskers almost touched the ground. Tang Zheng stood in front of the huge dragon's head and stretched out his hands. His fingers moved, and a complicated seal appeared. It turned into a mysterious light and entered the five-clawed golden dragon's head. The five-clawed golden dragon trembled and then released a golden light that wrapped around Tang Zheng. It was as if he had turned into a golden man. Roar! A dragon's roar came from the five-clawed golden dragon's mouth. At the same time, a dragon's roar also came from the dragon mark on Tang Zheng's forehead. However, this dragon roar could only be heard by him. The shrunken golden dragon in the dragon seal began to surge, as if it was riding the clouds. Its entire body was suffused with golden light, especially the dragon vein in the golden dragon, which was particularly eye-catching. The golden light was the brightest. This was the dragon vein that he had absorbed in Qin Shi Huang's tomb. It had fused with the ninth main meridian in his body and appeared in the little golden dragon's body. The little golden dragon's golden light flickered and slowly condensed under its abdomen. Not long after, it condensed the embryonic form of the fifth dragon claw and rapidly grew. Tang Zheng seemed to have understood something. His eyes were overflowing with color, and he was overjoyed. The fifth layer of the dragon god secret arts. He never thought that using the soul brand technique would have such a miraculous effect. The soul brand technique linked Tang Zheng and the five-clawed golden dragon together. Naturally, the five-clawed golden dragon would feed back to Tang Zheng and help him break through to the fifth layer of the dragon god's secret arts. Looking at the five-clawed golden dragon, Tang Zheng could clearly feel its power. Of course, although it also had five claws, it couldn't be compared to the five-clawed golden dragon in front of him. Tang Zheng didn't care. As long as he could reach the fifth layer and enter the fifth floor of the Langyu Pavilion, it would be a great harvest for him. The little golden dragon slowly calmed down, and the fifth claw was completely formed. The five-clawed golden dragon raised its head, and the golden light on its body dimmed. Although its body didn't change and its strength wasn't damaged, it knew that a brand was left in the depths of its soul. From now on, it would never be able to resist Tang Zheng. It was a great shame to submit to a human, but it was powerless to resist. He's not human. He cultivated the dragon god's secret arts, and even cultivated the dragon mark. He should be considered a member of the dragon clan. It finally remembered Tang Zheng's words and used it to comfort itself. It could be considered as soothing its wounded heart. However, when it completely fixed its gaze on Tang Zheng, it was obviously shocked and exclaimed, "You actually broke through again and reached the fifth layer of the dragon god's secret arts." Tang Zheng smiled faintly. "I have to thank you for this. Don't worry, I won't treat you unfairly. In the future, you will definitely be proud of today's decision." The five-clawed golden dragon snorted and didn't comment. Tang Zheng didn't care about its little mood and said, "Your problem is solved. Next, it's my problem." Tang Zheng looked at the space around him. The hall had been destroyed. Let's restore it to its original state. With a thought from Tang Zheng, the surrounding space underwent a huge change. Stone walls were automatically built from all directions. Not long after, the hall was restored to its original state. He controlled this space, and all of this was done with a single thought. Although this space is still under the Imperial City, from now on, except for me, no one can find this space. He obviously wanted to hide this space. This time, the movement was so big that the dragon in the capital was no longer a secret. He was afraid that people from all walks of life would compete to find it. He naturally couldn't let these people succeed. especially since there were officials and Azure Dragon Palace among these people. He had to be careful. Now, he couldn't help but be curious about how Tian Chanzi knew that there was a dragon under the Imperial City. This old man had a lot of secrets. However, he didn't intend to ask. Tian Chanzi definitely didn't have any malicious intentions towards him. He was still very confident about this. Although the Empyrean Fairy was curious about the Dragon Clan and wanted to know more about the five-clawed golden dragon, she didn't object when she heard this. From now on, you will obediently stay here. The original agreement is still valid. When my power reaches the requirements, I will naturally come and let you out. The five-clawed golden dragon didn't have any temper. However, he no longer doubted this sentence. It was already his dragon. The sooner he let it out, the better it would be for him. When Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy appeared in the Imperial City, everyone immediately surrounded them. The dragon's roar just now made them feel uneasy. Number one looked at the two of them who were completely unharmed, and then recalled the 100 Transformation Star-Lord who was in a sorry state earlier. He felt even more shocked and no longer dared to look down on Tang Zheng. Where is the dragon? Number one couldn't help but ask first. This was the question he was most concerned about. Naturally, it was also the question the chief was most concerned about. The movement in the Imperial City had attracted the attention of all parties, including the chief's opponents. The impact was very bad. If they didn't seize the opportunity, it would definitely not be worth it. The movement in the Imperial City this time had become an excuse for their opponents to make trouble. The chief was in a terrible fix. Of course, if they found the dragon, all of this could be reversed. Tang Zheng glanced at him lightly and didn't rush to deny it. Now that he had complete control of the dragon, and the dragon's secret couldn't be hidden, so he generously admitted, the dragon is in a very safe place. Number one's face stiffened and his heart was bitter. Of course he knew it was in a very safe place, but they wanted the dragon. Where is it? Can we see it? Number one asked. No. This refusal made number one unable to get angry. He could only look at him with pleading eyes and said, the chief wants to see it. Please tell him that this is impossible. Tang Zheng still refused without hesitation. Number one's face was very ugly, and the corner of his mouth twitched a few times. Under Tang Zheng's aggressive gaze, he finally didn't dare to say more. Tang Zheng glanced at the others, and his eyes fell on Xiao Bai and Huang Xiang's arms. His eyes lit up and asked what happened to it. It ate the Knighten of Yamada no Orochi. Tian Chanzi said. Xiao Bai reluctantly opened its eyes and looked at Tang Zheng as a greeting. Then it closed its eyes and fell asleep. Tang Zheng held it and gently stroked its hair. He knew that it would transform. The Knighten of Yamada no Orochi contained a lot of energy. If this little guy digested it, it would definitely benefit a lot. Chapter 905. Tang Zheng and the others left the Imperial City. Although number one really wanted him to explain the matter about the dragon, he did not dare to stop them. The sky was already turning white, and the morning glow was slowly rising. However, the capital city had already woken up and was abnormally noisy. Many residents stood in the streets and alleys, looking up at the Imperial City one after another. The commotion last night was so big that it was still vivid in their minds, especially the few lights that rose into the sky in the capital city. It was like a sci-fi movie, making people wonder if aliens had arrived. Many police cars and policemen were in the streets and alleys. The policemen were all persuading the residents to stop watching and explaining the strange phenomenon last night. Tang Zheng stopped and listened for a few words. He could not help but admire the level of lies that the government had fabricated. They actually said that the methane in the sewage system under the Imperial City had accumulated for too many years and had exploded. As for the few lights, it was a normal phenomenon caused by the refraction and reflection of the explosion's flames through the clouds. The breathtaking dragon's roar was an enhanced effect caused by the resonance of the shock wave from the explosion with the air. Because it was dark, only a few people saw the huge figures of the mecha, the four symbols, and Yamada no Orochi in the Imperial City. Therefore, the government did not directly refute the rumors about these giants. In addition, the government also refuted the rumors about the werewolves and bloodlings a few days ago, saying that they were animals that had escaped from a zoo. Whether the public believed it or not, the government believed it anyway. This prevarication made many people speechless. Did they really take the people for fools? Overwhelming publicity, whether online or in real life, the government's refutation of the rumors filled the people's eardrums. Public opinion could distort gold, and accumulation could destroy bones. Gradually, some people also believed these words. As long as people believed it, it was naturally like a single spark could start a prairie fire. The voices of doubt gradually disappeared in tea, rice, oil, and salt, and the huge pressure of survival and work. It was only an occasional topic of conversation after dinner. Therefore, Tang Zheng was wrong. Although the incident this time was big, it did not have much an impact on the ordinary people, nor did it cause the uproar he predicted. The existence of cultivators was still a mystery. Although more people knew about it, the general public was still in the dark. Of course, this was a story for later. After Tang Zheng and the others returned to the villa, the others were waiting quietly in the villa. Seeing them return, they were relieved. Last night, they were really worried the whole night and didn't sleep a wink. This was especially true for Lanya. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had been crying. Seeing that Tang Zheng had returned, she hurriedly ran over and asked about his well-being. After confirming that Tang Zheng was safe and sound, she finally felt relieved. What happened? Why is there such a big commotion? Everyone looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. Tang Zheng did not mention anything about the five-clawed golden dragon. He simply explained the battle with Yamada no Orochi. Everyone was shaken to the core. Marshall was silent for a while before asking, "Where's Junko?" He had seen this person before and had a deep impression of her. He might have escaped. Tang Zheng did not place this woman in his eyes. Without the 100 Transformation Star-Lord, she would not be able to stir up any waves. Everyone spoke one after another, consoling each other for a while. Finally, they confirmed that the storm had passed and the clouds had dispersed. They couldn't help but reveal smiles on their faces. "Tang Zheng, can I have a word with you?" Suddenly, Princess and walked over and said. Tang Zheng frowned suspiciously and asked, "What's the matter?" "Nicholas has been destroyed, and Rockefeller will definitely fall. As for the remnants of the Atlantic Empire, they're nothing to worry about. My father asked you when you will implement that plan." Princess and had only received the call last night, so she took the opportunity to ask. The news of Nicholas's death had already spread throughout many countries. Although the Atlantic Empire claimed that he had died of illness at home, those who knew the inside story knew that Nicholas had fallen into the hands of Tang Zheng. At that time, Tang Zheng and the royal families of many European countries had a secret agreement. If Nicholas was destroyed, the Rockefeller family's property would be divided among them. However, other than Sweden, the royal families of the other countries had already changed their minds. Now that the Swedish king had taken the initiative to mention this matter, it seemed that he was coveting the fat meat of Rockefeller and was preparing to make the first move. However, the Swedish royal family alone was obviously unable to compete with a group of tigers and wolves, so they were preparing to join forces with Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng still remembered that the Swedish king did not add insult to injury, so after thinking for a while, he said, "After a few days, when things are settled here, I will go to your country." This time, not only was he going, but even Mu Hongyan had to go because there were many business operations which was not his strong suit. Moreover, Mu Hongyan had already made arrangements in Europe, and now was the harvest season, so of course she could not be absent. As for Tang Zheng, he was going to hold the line so that the rascals would not dare to look down on Mu Hongyan, a woman, so that her actions would be smoother. And heard this and smiled with relief. Then came to Tian Chanzi's side and said, "Master, my father invited you to visit my country. I wonder if Master can do me the honor?" After he finished speaking, he looked at him with a smile, blinking his sparkling eyes like a big doll. Tian Chanzi's heart skipped a beat. He had always been thinking about the spar, and was sure that the Swedish royal family definitely had more than two of them. Since the other party had taken the initiative to invite him, it would be difficult for him to refuse, so he went to take a look and see if he could get more spar. Tian Chanzi purposely muttered to himself for a while, then pretended to say, "Then let's go." Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was only fooling people who weren't familiar with him. Tang Zheng knew that he probably couldn't wait any longer in his heart. A burst of hurried footsteps came from outside the house. The Yin family, the Qin family, Yi Tianlei, and Feng Xinyang had actually come at the same time. From their stern expressions, it could be seen that even they were frightened by the commotion last night, especially when Yin Patian knew about the existence of the five-clawed golden dragon. He was extremely worried, afraid that the five-clawed golden dragon would be captured by bad people, and the situation would be serious. This time, Tang Zheng still did not explicitly mention the matter of the five-clawed golden dragon. Although the officials had already confirmed this matter, they still would not publicize it. Therefore, he chose to keep it a secret and not disclose it to the public. Since the enemy is dead and has escaped, can we remove our inescapable net in the capital? Yin Patian asked for Tang Zheng's opinion. Tang Zheng pondered for a moment, then said, "Go all out to hunt down Song Yu." But thinking about it, with Song Yu's style of steering according to the wind, she would have long since escaped if she didn't see it right. Forget it, let's retreat. However, we must pay attention to the movements in the capital in the future, especially since I will be leaving for a period of time. You must be even more careful. Where are you going when you leave? Yin Patian was shocked. Now that the capital was in a precarious situation, would there be any bad effects if he left? Tang Zheng saw through his thoughts, shook his head, and said, "Don't worry, Fu Yao will stay behind, and with you guys in charge, the capital will not be able to cause any big waves." Actually, Tang Zheng could guess the attitude of the officials. Now that the successive upheavals had caused the officials to be extremely passive, there were a lot of discussions among the people, and there were a lot of criticisms. At this time, stability was the most important thing. Moreover, the 100 Transformation Star Lord was injured and would not come out for the time being. As for the Azure Dragon Palace, Tang Zheng subconsciously thought of the chief. His attitude towards the Azure Dragon Palace seemed to be rather ambiguous. It seemed that he at least knew something that Tang Zheng did not know. Perhaps out of consideration for stability, the chief would also stop the Azure Dragon Palace from causing any more trouble. Therefore, the capital that was in the center of the storm was actually the safest place for the next period of time. Seeing that Tang Zheng was so confident, although everyone had doubts in their hearts, they put them away. They already trusted Tang Zheng blindly and would not easily question his decision. The Yin family and the Qin family left together. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang stayed behind and looked at their daughter. The two of them looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Especially when he saw Tang Zheng's room full of women, many messy thoughts appeared in his mind. In the end, Yi Tianlei felt that it was too rash for his daughter to stay in Tang Zheng's house like this. So he waved his hand and said, "Ding Dang, let's go home." Yi Ding Dang was reluctant to part, but she was too embarrassed to say that she wouldn't go home. In fact, in the past few days, when she had been with everyone day and night, she actually had a feeling of gradually merging with them. She originally thought that she would have a very strong resistance in her heart, but it did not erupt as expected. This made her very surprised, and no matter how hard she scratched her head, she could not think of a reason. When Tang Zheng heard this, he also looked at Yi Ding Dang somewhat awkwardly. He couldn't stay, but he also could not stay. This was really a difficult problem. Fang Shishir seemed to see his dilemma and intimately held Yi Ding Dong's hand. She said with a smile, "Uncle, just let Ding Dang stay here. There are many rooms here, and we can even be companions and whisper to each other." Fang Shishir and Yi Ding Dang had gone through thick and thin together. In the past few days, they had been together day and night, so their relationship had improved greatly. Although Tang Zheng was surprised, he looked at Fang Shishir very gratefully. Fang Shishir smiled sweetly and gave him a reassuring look. Yi Ding Dang did not expect Fang Shishir to be so magnanimous and actually take the initiative to ask her to stay. Not only Yi Dingdang, but even the others looked at Feng Shishir with incomparable surprise. Everyone knew that Feng Shishir was Tang Zheng's girlfriend in name. Moreover, the unclear relationship between Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang was obvious to all. She actually took the initiative to ask Yi Dingdang to stay. This kind of breadth of mind was really hard for others to reach. Wu opened her mouth, but in the end, she did not say anything. Although she could accept Tang Zheng's romantic affairs, for her to immediately be so magnanimous with her personality, it was impossible for her to do so. Lu Qingmei's position was even more awkward. But seeing Yi Tianlei and his wife's hesitant appearance, and then looking at Tang Zheng, she took a deep breath and resolutely stood up and persuaded, Sure is right. With so many girls living together, we are actually quite happy. We can also take care of each other. Yi Tianlei slapped his forehead. Heavens, even the teacher came out to ask them to stay. That's not right. Teacher Lu seemed to have always been living here. Could it be that with Tang Zheng? He did not dare to think about it anymore. This relationship was too messy. He was a bit dizzy, so he kept his mouth shut and did not say anything. He gave the initiative to Feng Xinyang. Feng Xinyang thoughtfully looked at the people involved. The corners of her mouth immediately blossomed into a smile. She kindly said, Since it's like this, then stay. Yi Dingdang's heart relaxed. She also subconsciously wanted to stay. Chapter 906. Feng Xinyang and Yi Tianlei left. On the way back, Yi Tianlei couldn't help but complain. What's wrong with you? You actually agreed to such an absurd thing? Feng Xinyang's lips curled up and said, Absurd. Of course it's absurd. Didn't you see the situation in that room? You're pushing your daughter into a fire pit. Yi Tianlei earnestly said, Is it really a fire pit? You men only know how to look at the surface and not the essence. Feng Xinyang shook her head and sighed. Yi Tianlei suspiciously looked at his wife. What do you mean by that? Could it be that you still don't understand our daughter's thoughts? Her heart is completely entrusted to the little handsome guy. If you let her come back, wouldn't that be giving the little handsome guy to someone else? How can I, Feng Xinyang's daughter, do such a foolish thing? But Feng Xinyang domineeringly waved her hand. No buts. If you don't rely on yourself to fight for your own happiness, do you expect others to give it to you? How can there be such a good thing? Yi Tianlei helplessly looked at his wife and was speechless. Feng Xinyang's thoughts turned as she recalled the scene just now. She thoughtfully said, Don't you think that Lu Qingmei and Tang Zheng, the two of them? Yi Tianlei was shocked. Actually, he also had this kind of misconception before. However, he immediately denied it. After all, the two of them had a teacher-student relationship. Wasn't his imagination running wild? He actually thought in that direction. It can't be. Feng Xinyang's gaze was deep as she muttered to herself for a while and said, The little handsome guy's charm is too great. It's hard to say. After all, the two of them aren't that different in age. Is Tang Zheng's charm that great? Yi Tianlei was skeptical. Feng Xinyang rolled her eyes and said, Of course. You men don't understand. Only us women know what we like. If I was 20 years younger, I would definitely chase after the little handsome guy without hesitation. Stop. The more you say, the more ridiculous it is. Yi Tianlei did not know whether to laugh or cry. Tang Zheng and the others went back to their rooms to rest. Tian Chanzi left again. Huang Zhang stood at the door like a guardian, guarding against possible dangers that could appear at any time. Tang Zheng carried Xiao Bai back to the room alone. Xiao Bai was so lazy that he didn't even want to open his eyes. Based on his previous experience, Little White's transformation would take a very long time. It wouldn't be over in a short period of time, so he directly put it into Sumeru world. He sat cross-legged on the bed, but didn't sleep. He closed his eyes and rested, recalling every detail of the night. Without a doubt, although this night was incomparably dangerous, it was still a fruitful harvest. The hidden danger of the 5-clawed golden dragon had been eliminated. He didn't need to worry about the officials and the Azure Dragon Palace getting involved with the five-clawed golden dragon. In addition, after the five-clawed golden dragon regained his freedom in the future, he wouldn't hurt ordinary people. This was what Tang Zheng valued the most. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to get over the hurdle in his heart if he released a calamity that would bring disaster to the world. Another gain was that Xiao Bai had eaten the inner core of Yamada no Orochi. He was full of anticipation for what Xiao Bai would transform into. Even Qi Yu was full of expectations. After all, Xiao Bai was the descendant of the legendary holy beast of the witch tribe. Qi Yu was also full of curiosity. The last gain was Qi Yu's heartblood, which allowed him to temporarily get rid of the possible threat of Qi Yu, so Qi Yu didn't dare to act rashly. The energy in that drop of heartblood was too strong. It was like the vast sea, and the energy was like the seawater in the sea. Tang Zheng had only absorbed a little, but he had already reached the 8th grade of the Gold Core realm. Of course, he wouldn't stop here. He wanted to absorb more energy in one go. Tang Zheng, what are you doing? Qi Yu knew what Tang Zheng was thinking and hurriedly asked. The inner demons were watching the show from the side. They gloated and said, in order to improve his cultivation, the young man absorbed a little energy from your heart blood. You have so many opinions and are so noisy. You really don't have any manners. Qi was furious. He didn't absorb your energy. Of course you can make sarcastic remarks. The inner demons chuckled. If he can absorb my energy for his own use and improve his cultivation, of course I don't mind contributing a little. The inner demon's generosity made Qi Yu even angrier. It's easy for you to say that. You clearly know that Tang Zheng can't absorb your energy, so you're pretending to be generous. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. Tang Zheng, don't listen to the inner demons. If my energy decreases, he can suppress me. This is not good for you. Qi Yu tried his best to persuade him, but Tang Zheng snorted. Qi Yu's words could only be trusted 30%. Moreover, he had already proven that he could increase his cultivation by 1 level just by absorbing a little bit of energy. Qi Yu wasn't affected at all, so even if he absorbed a little more, it wouldn't hurt him. Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to Qi Yu's words. He continued to circulate his energy. His dantian began to shine brightly. Strands of energy were extracted from his blood and merged into his jindan. Don't. Tang Zheng, quickly stop. You definitely can't. Qi Yu wailed as he begged. Tang Zheng didn't seem to hear him. He just continued to circulate his energy. The inner demon couldn't stop laughing. Good job, young man. Don't listen to his hypocritical cries. Qi Yu was unable to restrain his anger. Opposing each other, the two of them started to quarrel again. Tang Zheng was completely focused on his cultivation. He could feel that the Zhen Qi in his meridians was increasing bit by bit. Especially the 9th main meridian, it was emitting bursts of golden light. It was filled with a mysterious aura. Tang Zheng had been looking forward to this meridian that had merged with the dragon vein. His intuition told him that one day there would be an unexpected change or even a miracle. Otherwise, the 9th main meridian of the Skywalker would be useless. It would only be a little bit more Zhen Qi, which would be too low. It was a pity that even Qi Yu, an older generation Skywalker, couldn't say anything, so he could only suppress this curiosity for now. The Zhen Qi rose with a whoosh, and the energy in his blood was not sucked away by much. This proved Tang Zheng's conjecture. Qi Yu purposely shouted happily, not wanting him to lose even the slightest bit of energy. How could Tang Zheng let him do as he wished? Boom! Suddenly, a rumbling sound came out from his body. His bones and tendons crackled nonstop, and a faint golden light appeared on the surface of his skin. Tang Zheng suddenly opened his eyes, overjoyed. 9th grade Jindan. No, it wasn't that simple. His body was still changing. He could feel that his skin, muscles, bones, and meridians were all changing, becoming tougher bit by bit. The Zhen Qi tempered every part of his body, imperceptibly changing. Primal Chaos Vajra spell. Tang Zheng suddenly remembered what was going on. This was the prelude to the Primal Chaos Vajra spell's breakthrough. He immediately activated the Primal Chaos Vajra spell. and as expected, the speed of the Zhenqi increased, quickly gathering towards every part of his body, tempering his body. His body was like a weapon, and the Zhenqi was like a furnace, tempering his body over and over again, allowing him to reach a more perfect state. This was a long process. Tang Zheng silently absorbed the energy from his heart's blood, transforming it into Zhenqi to supply this tempering process. Qi Yu's voice became weaker, as if he was tired from shouting. He watched Tang Zheng absorb the energy from his heart's blood with exhaustion. The inner demons commented complacently. The Skywalker is indeed a genius in cultivation. The change in the young man's cultivation can be said to be astonishing. This is your Witch Clan's Primal Chaos Vajra spell, right? TSK. When you reach the final stage of indestructibility in the future, you will have an indestructible body. As long as you have an indestructible body, no matter how much damage your body receives, you will still have a chance of survival. Qi Yu, the reason why you were able to survive the Battle of Zhuelu was probably because of the Primal Chaos Vajra spell. Qi Yu was already numb to it. He snorted coldly and could not be bothered with the inner demons. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener meant it. Tang Zheng did not know that the Primal Chaos Vajra spell was so powerful before. It turned out that the reason why Qi Yu was able to survive was because of the Primal Chaos Vajra spell. Then he had truly underestimated this cultivation technique in the past. He had a treasure mountain, but he did not know how to exploit it. Since he did not place enough importance on this cultivation technique in the past, he would have to place more importance on it in the future, just like the Dragon God method. If the Primal Chaos Vajra spell had a breakthrough this time, it would naturally be extremely good. He immediately abandoned all distracting thoughts and silently circulated the Primal Chaos Vajra spell. However, the tempering process this time was not temporary, so he was not in a hurry. He gradually placed his attention on the dragon seal. The little 5-clawed golden dragon was full of energy, as if it had sensed his thoughts. It shook its head and wagged its tail, making it look even more adorable. Little golden dragon, I wonder what you will become in the future. Tang Zheng thought in anticipation. Even the 5-clawed golden dragon was unable to truly explain the changes in his body, so he could only rely on himself to figure out step by step. After seeing the little golden dragon, his consciousness naturally sank into the dragon seal and entered the Langya Pavilion. The scene in front of him changed. The towering and ancient Langya Pavilion stood in front of him. 5th floor, I'm here. Tang Zheng strolled into the Langya Pavilion and quickly passed through the 1st floor. When he reached the 2nd floor, he slowed down and suppressed his excitement. When he reached the 3rd floor, his state of mind had completely returned to normal. He did not know what was waiting for him, so he did not dare to let his guard down. Back then on the 4th floor, if he had not walked out of the Exorcist mirror's illusion, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Therefore, although the Exorcist mirror was good, it was also risky. Otherwise, if it could easily exorcise a person's inner demons, why did even a peerless powerhouse like Qi Yu still have inner demons? When he stepped on the 4th floor, he subconsciously glanced at the Exorcist mirror. It was still quietly placed not far away. This time, he did not fall into the illusion as soon as he stepped on this floor like the last time. However, when he saw the Exorcist mirror, another thought flashed through his mind. There were so many people in the Dragon Clan. If someone did not walk out of the illusion of the Exorcist mirror, what would the consequences be? This question could only be answered by the real Dragon Clan. He, an imposter, would not know the truth for the time being. He walked up to the 5th floor and glanced out of the window. This was already very high, so he could see the scenery below. However, the scene in the distance was very blurry and could not be seen clearly. Only then did he realize that after coming to the Langya Pavilion so many times, he had only entered the Langya Pavilion and had not explored the places outside the Langya Pavilion. Those places were chaotic, as if shrouded in fog. The two yin-yang fish merged and bloomed two rays of light, one black and one white. Tang Zheng was startled as he discovered that one sword technique after another rose into the air from the yin-yang fish and was imprinted in his mind. Taiji yin-yang sword technique. A few big words flashed and disappeared into the yin-yang fish. Tang Zheng was stunned. It was unbelievable. This was a set of sword technique. The posture of the bronze figures was a sword move, and the sword chi that shot out also represented a sword move. In the end, the sword chi was appeased and branded in his brain, forming a complete set of 36 moves of Taiji yin-yang sword technique. This set of sword technique was a combination of yin and yang, and it was perfectly compatible with the Tao of heaven and earth. It was a rare sword technique. Although Tang Zheng had not learned it yet, he could already tell that it was definitely more mysterious and powerful than the heavenly fairy sword technique. Hadn't he been looking for a more powerful sword technique? He didn't expect to find it. However, the process of searching was too dangerous, and he almost lost his life. If I didn't hold on just now, would I really die here? He couldn't help but ponder. No, Langu Pavilion is too mysterious. I have to ask the five-clawed golden dragon again. It didn't say anything before, but this time, it's not up to it. He didn't know that the Taiji yin-yang sword technique focused on the balance of yin and yang. It was not a problem for ordinary people to cultivate it, but Tang Zheng had the 9-yang saint body, the body with the heaviest yang qi in the world. Although this kind of physique was rare for cultivation and could allow one to cultivate many techniques with twice the result with half the effort, the Taiji yin-yang sword technique was an exception. Therefore, to an ordinary person, this was a very simple matter, but to Tang Zheng, it was very dangerous. If it was an ordinary person just now, after the 36 sword chi shot into their body, they would definitely not scatter around. This was because an ordinary person's body was in balance of yin and yang. Even if there was a deviation, it was still within an acceptable range. The 36 sword chi would smoothly converge into this set of sword technique and be branded in one's mind. However, Tang Zheng was different. His physique was too special. This was originally an advantage, but had become a fatal flaw here. But at the final moment, the little golden dragon in the dragon seal showed its might and finally calmed the restless sword chi, pulling Tang Zheng back from the gates of hell. Tang Zheng still didn't know the reason behind this. He just looked at the Taiji yin-yang sword technique curiously. Although there were 36 moves, they were subdivided into 6 levels. Each level contained 6 sword moves. One had to gradually cultivate the corresponding sword moves in order to enter the next level. He simply started to cultivate. The first move of the first level was very simple. With a thought, a bronze man appeared in Tang Zheng's mind. It quickly moved, and a surging sword chi shot out from its hand with great power. Tang Zheng remembered this move, but subconsciously turned his head to look around, as if he wanted to see if the bronze men were still there. They had unknowingly returned to their original state, so quiet that it was as if they had never moved. The air was calm, and there was no trace of sword chi. It was as if this was an ordinary room, and they were dead bronze men. Tang Zheng shook his head. This sword technique was too mysterious. It had actually been integrated into these 36 bronze men. It was really unheard of, and he didn't know who had created it. But there was no doubt that the person who had created this sword technique must have great wisdom, great perseverance, and exceptional cultivation. He restrained his thoughts and didn't think about these illusory questions. He focused all his thoughts on the sword technique. But suddenly he was stunned. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This was because he actually had no recollection of the sword technique that he had just learned. One had to know that he had a photographic memory. He could remember almost anything that he saw once. But why did he have no recollection of the sword technique he had just seen? He only knew that this sword technique existed. As for how to use it, he had no clue. His mind was blank. Strange, too strange. His expression became particularly serious. He racked his brains, as if trying to remember a little bit, but still came up empty-handed. He couldn't help but immerse his mind in that sword technique, wanting to learn it again. That sword technique had actually disappeared. It had completely disappeared from his mind, as if it had never appeared. But he knew that it had been imprinted in his mind. So how could it disappear in the blink of an eye? It was too strange. He subconsciously looked at the yin and yang fish in his mind. It was calm and slowly rotating. But there was an additional white line in the black fish. Tang Zheng was shocked. He was sure that the black fish was as black as ink and definitely didn't have this impurity-like white line. He couldn't understand it. The first technique he had learned had completely disappeared, and he couldn't remember it all. And there was an additional white line in the black fish. Could it be that there was some connection between the two? Tang Zheng shook his head. He really couldn't understand this. He could only suppress the doubts in his heart and ask others for help in the future. Chapter 908. The second sword technique was not complicated either. Tang Zheng followed suit, and when the small copper man's movements appeared in his mind, he also followed suit. This time, his consciousness did not leave his brain. He wanted to firmly remember this sword technique, but strangely, his memory became more and more blurry. Not long later, he could not remember how to use this sword technique at all. His entire body stiffened as his arm hung in the air. No matter how he gestured, he felt extremely awkward. He could not find any sense of familiarity at all. He was stunned. This sword move had disappeared from his mind, and it was under the condition that his consciousness was extremely clear. This was not evil. It was simply like seeing a ghost. He scratched his ears and cheeks, unable to think of a reason why. I don't believe it. Let's learn the third move. Tang Zheng thought about it, but the third copper man did not appear in his mind. Instead, his head hurt as if it was being pricked by needles, causing him to temporarily lose his ability to think. After a long while, the pain finally disappeared. His brows were tightly knitted together. Looks like I still can't learn the third move. Even that copper man didn't appear. In fact, when my brain thought about the third move, it actually hurt like hell. This sword technique is really powerful. I'm already at the 9th stage of the Gene Dance stage, but I can only learn 2 moves. How high would my cultivation be to learn the remaining 3 moves? How high will my cultivation be to learn all 14 moves? His expression darkened. So what if he finished learning it? If he didn't learn it, he would forget about it completely. He temporarily threw the Taiji 2 forms sword technique to the back of his mind and observed this floor to see if there were any other useful things or introductions to this sword technique. However, after searching for a long time, other than these 36 copper men, there was nothing else of value. He subconsciously glanced at the stairs leading to the 6th floor, and a complicated expression flashed across his eyes. In the past, he had always thought that there was a treasure trove on every floor, but now he understood that it was not as simple as a treasure trove. At the same time, there was also a huge hidden danger. Time flew by. His time in the Langu Pavilion was up, and he was forced to leave. He slowly opened his eyes and found that he was still sitting cross-legged on the bed. The faint golden light on his skin had actually disappeared, and his bronze skin was as tough as iron. His heart skipped a beat, and he was pleasantly surprised. Vajra body. The chaotic Vajra spell has actually completed the tempering of the body, reaching the 4th level Vajra. He touched his own skin, which was even more lustrous than before. He raised the War Soul sword and stabbed himself, but did not pierce through. Even if the War Soul sword was not activated, it could still cut through hair and cut iron like mud, but it could not hurt his skin. This was the true invulnerability of the Vajra body. Of course, if he activated his innate chi, the power of the War Soul sword would increase greatly, and his Vajra body might not be able to block it. He wasn't bored enough to actually use his own body for such a dangerous experiment. He stood up and stretched his muscles. His bones crackled as if he had been reborn. Young man, your chaotic Vajra spell has actually broken through. Congratulations. The inner demons congratulated him. Chiyu coldly snorted and said, "Is a celestial cultivating the chaotic Vajra spell is already twice the result with half the effort. What is there to congratulate?" The inner demons chuckled You should congratulate him on his progress. Only you would be so petty. Isn't it just him absorbing a little bit of your blood and sweat? Young man, why don't you continue to absorb a little more energy in one go and break through the Yuanying realm in one go? Inner demons, you're going too far. Qi was furious at such provocative words, afraid that Tang Zheng would really do it, and hurriedly advised, Tang Zheng, don't listen to his bewitchment. From the Aura's core to the Yuanying is a very important transition process. This is related to the speed of your cultivation in the future, as well as how far you can go in the future. If the condensed Yuanying is too weak, then you won't be able to do much in the future, and your cultivation will stop at the Yuanying realm. Tang Zheng was not a person who only listened to one side of the story. He remembered that when he was going from the fasting realm to the Aura's core realm, the Empyrean Fairy had also said the same thing. The transition between realms was a very important period, and he definitely could not let his guard down. On this point, Qi was not lying. Of course, the other party definitely had his own selfish motives and did not want Tang Zheng to absorb the energy of his heart's blood so recklessly. As for the inner demons, as expected, these two were not easy to deal with. The inner demons were digging a hole for him again. If he rashly broke through to the Yuanying stage, the condensed Yuanying would definitely not be good, and his future cultivation would naturally not be that high. In this way, the inner demons would have an opportunity to take control of his body. You're really good at scheming. Tang Zheng felt a chill run down his spine and said unhappily, Inner demons, I'll mute you for 3 days as punishment. What did I do? The inner demons pretended to be at a loss and asked, you know very well what you did. Tang Zheng was too lazy to explain and directly muted him. No matter how much the inner demons complained, they could not say a word. This is how you should deal with the inner demons. She also laughed gloatingly. These two were very happy to see the other party suffer. Tang Zheng recalled the various strange aspects of the Taiji Yin-Yang sword technique and asked, Qiyu, have you heard of the Taiji Yin-Yang sword technique? Qiyu thought for a moment and said, I don't know. There are thousands of techniques in the world. It is impossible for me to know all of them. Tang Zheng's expression darkened, and he did not give up and asked, Then do you know what kind of technique will be forgotten immediately after practicing? Forget? Qiyu was confused. The purpose of cultivating a cultivation technique is to remember it firmly. How could I forget? If you really forget, how can you use it in the future? Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. This was also his question. Seeing that Qiyu could not explain, he could only ask the 5-clawed golden dragon to see if the dragon race knew a thing or two. Tang Zheng, just now your consciousness was out of your body. What happened? Qiyu suddenly asked curiously. When Tang Zheng moved in his mind, Qiyu also noticed this clue, but thinking about it, it was not strange. After all, Qiyu and the inner demons were too strong. But even if Tang Zheng's consciousness was out of his body, they would not have been able to seize control of this body at that time. Nothing. Tang Zheng answered perfunctorily. It is the so-called dragon seal of the dragon race. You have entered the Langyu Pavilion. In the past, Qiyu had hidden in Tang Zheng's body and already knew a lot of secrets. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank, his whole body became cold, and a faint murderous aura flashed. What is your purpose? Qiyu heard the displeasure and caution in Tang Zheng's tone and hurriedly explained, Don't misunderstand, I don't have any purpose, just purely out of curiosity. Even in my time, dragons were an absolutely mysterious existence, so I have an innate curiosity about dragons. Where dragons come from has always been a mystery. Now that the dragon race has left this world, where did they go? I think you also want to know, but now that you control the 5-clawed golden dragon, this question will eventually be answered in the future. Tang Zheng coldly snorted and bluntly warned, You've better not have any bad ideas. Your hard work is still in my hands. Of course, why would I make things difficult for myself? I'm just purely curious. What kind of existence is the Langyu Pavilion? How many treasures are hidden in it? The Taiji Yin-Yang sword technique you mentioned just now, was it found in the Langyu Pavilion? Tang Zheng said that he was really smart, but still said coldly, So what if it is? Qiyu sighed. The Langyu Pavilion is really unpredictable. With this treasure trove, you might really be able to go further than me in the future. Really? Don't you want to control my body? I definitely don't mean that. Yu quickly denied. Tang Zheng laughed jokingly. Do you really think I will believe you? After that, he ignored Yu and directly opened the door and walked out. It was already afternoon. The others had already rested. Lan Yu and Mu Hongyan were busy in the kitchen. The others were sitting together and chatting, or watching TV and playing with their phones, a scene of joy and harmony. When Nana saw Tang Zheng, she flew over, tiptoed, jumped up, and directly hooked her arms around Tang Zheng's neck. Her bell-like laughter was very pleasing to the ear. Nana hugged her and said, Nana, we will go to primary school next semester. This was something that Mu Hongyan had mentioned to him before. After all, Nana had grown up. She still had to integrate into the life of her peers, and even more so, integrate into this society. She could not just cultivate at home. Nana pouted and said, The other children are so childish. I want to stay at home to accompany my brother and cultivate with my master. Childish? Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment. Hearing this word from the mouth of a child, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Where did you learn this word from? Nana proudly raised her head and said, Nana is so smart. Of course it was self-taught. Tang Zheng tapped her pink forehead and said with a smile, You don't even have a teacher. You really are a little mischievous. When you go to school in the future, you can't bully other students, especially not use magic to scare other students. Understand? You have to be a good student. Nana has always been very good. Nana will listen to Big Brother's words and won't casually use magic. This is our family's secret. Nanan pointed at everyone, clearly including everyone in this big family. Tang Zheng nodded with gratification. Although Nana was still young, she was smart and quick-witted. There were many things that she could understand. There was no need to be long-winded. Suddenly, Tang Zheng looked towards the door and felt that there was someone outside. As expected, there was a knock on the door. Fang Shishir walked over to open the door. When she opened it, she was surprised to see the person outside and exclaimed, It's you. Hello, is Tang Zheng here? A deep voice asked. Everyone turned their heads to look. When they saw who it was, their eyes widened in surprise. This was actually the chief who often appeared on the television news. There was probably no one in the country who was unfamiliar with him. Chapter 909. Tang Zheng walked over, nodded slightly, and said, Bureau Chief, please come in. The Bureau Chief smiled at Tang Zheng, and there seemed to be less arrogance between his brows than before. He looked up the house and said, Your house is really not bad. Thank you. The Bureau Chief nodded at everyone again. Hello, everyone. Other than Empyrean Fairy and Li Xiaotian, everyone else stood up to respond. These two people knew each other, but they didn't think much of each other. After all, Empyrean Fairy had even seen Qin Shi Huang. Other high officials were no different from ordinary people to him. Li Xiaotian had lost his memory and didn't recognize him at all. He even stared at him curiously. Everyone, sit down. Don't be so reserved. I'm just here to visit everyone, the Bureau Chief said in an amiable and dignified manner. Tang Zheng was calm and composed. He gestured at everyone, and everyone sat down. After all, they were born and grew up here, so they subconsciously respected the Bureau Chief. Tang Zheng had seen it too many times, so he didn't feel anything. Seeing number one following behind the Bureau Chief, Tang Zheng knew that they weren't just here to take a look. They had a purpose, so he went straight to the point and said, Let's go in and talk. The Bureau Chief nodded in understanding. The two entered the study. Number one stayed behind to guard the door, as if he didn't want anyone to come close. Everyone looked curiously at the tightly shut door and started to murmur curiously. Why is he looking for Tang Zheng? Maybe he's here to win over Tang Zheng. No, it must be related to what happened last night. It was such a big commotion. Then will Tang Zheng be in danger? Everyone's hearts tightened as they looked at each other. Yi Dingdang gritted her teeth and said fearlessly, If he really dares to do anything to Tang Zheng, I won't let it go. Me too. Fang Shishir hurriedly said as she shared a common enemy. Lu Qingmei said me too in her heart, but she didn't say anything. A bright light flashed in Wu's eyes. Although he did not say a word, his attitude was already very clear. Princess and didn't find it strange and said, "It's not as dangerous as you say. In Europe, it's common for the king's royal family to win over the elites. Besides, Tang Zheng isn't just an elite. He wouldn't dare to easily deal with Tang Zheng. After all, Princess and was experienced and knowledgeable." The Empyrean fairy looked at her approvingly. Although Princess Anne's cultivation was the weakest among them, there was no doubt that she was more knowledgeable than the others. "Tang Zheng has been letting her stay at home. Could it be that he's interested in her too? He's really flirtatious." The Empyrean fairy secretly shook her head. Men were indeed jackals of the same tribe. Since ancient times, no matter if they were emperors, generals, ministers, or commoners, they were all the same. Seeing that the others were skeptical of Anne's words, the Empyrean fairy said lightly, "Don't worry, she's right." The Empyrean fairy's prestige was naturally not comparable to the others. Hearing her say this, everyone's worried hearts were relieved. They asked in surprise, "Really?" "Of course." Everyone was grinning from ear to ear as they looked at the door, trying to guess what was going on inside. Tang Zheng poured a cup of water for the bureau chief and sat down facing him. He asked, "Bureau chief, why are you looking for me in such a hurry?" He had already guessed it. It was probably the matter of the five-clawed golden dragon. He was just asking the obvious. "Last night, thanks to your help, we were able to defeat the 100-chain Star Lord and kill that Yamada no Orochi. I'm here to thank you." The bureau chief said, "These people are my enemies. Moreover, their arrival threatened the safety of commoners. Naturally, I can't shirk my responsibility. I'm very gratified that you can think this way. There's a saying that the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. For you to be able to bravely take on this heavy responsibility, I would like to sincerely thank you on behalf of the commoners in the capital." The bureau chief's face was solemn as he said sincerely, "Bureau chief, you flatter me." Tang Zheng said modestly and took a sip of water. Since the other party didn't reveal his true intentions, he was happy to play dumb. The bureau chief pondered for a while and looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully. Seeing that he didn't speak anymore, it seemed that he had to bring up this matter himself. Helpless, he could only say, "Tang Zheng, about the dragon. Do you have anything to tell me?" Tang Zheng stared at him. Their eyes met, and he said without hesitation, "There's nothing to say." The bureau chief raised his thick eyebrows, as if he didn't expect Tang Zheng to reject him so directly. This almost blocked his next question. But since he took the initiative to come here, it was impossible for him to leave after hearing this answer. Thus, after pondering for a while, he asked, "The dragon really exists. That dragon's roar can't be faked. Moreover, the 100-chain Star Lord and Yamada no Orochi came for it. Your words don't seem to be convincing." Tang Zheng was still unmoved and said, "Did anyone see it?" "No, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. All kinds of evidence have shown that the dragon exists. It's useless for you to deny it." The bureau chief's voice rose a few notches. He seemed to be a little agitated. Tang Zheng was still as calm as an ancient well. Without batting an eyelid, he said, "Since you already believe in its existence, isn't it superfluous to ask this question again?" In this world, only Tang Zheng dared to say that the bureau chief's words were superfluous. The bureau chief wasn't angry. Even if he was, it would be useless. Moreover, he was more than that. Instead, he curled up the corners of his mouth and said, "Are you worried about something? The dragon is the totem of the Xia people. If we really find the dragon, it will be of great help to boost the spirit of our people. I have nothing to worry about. The dragon isn't something that you can control or even control. I think you've misunderstood. We have never meant to control the dragon. We don't even dare to think about it." The bureau chief denied. However, Tang Zheng didn't think so. The words of these superiors couldn't be completely trusted. Moreover, from number one's grand actions and his drive to dig 3 feet into the ground, it could be seen how much importance he attached to the dragon. Moreover, the dragon was a huge temptation. It evoked people's most primitive instincts. For the superiors, The most primitive instinct was to consolidate their position. To many people, the dream of lasting generations was a castle in the air. However, if there was a dragon, then it might really be possible to achieve it. Tang Zheng could imagine how great of a temptation this was. Since you don't mean to do that, then there's even less need to see the dragon. Moreover, if the dragon really appears in the eyes of the world, I'm sure you know better than I do how much panic it will cause. No, you're wrong about that. We are the descendants of a dragon. If the dragon really appears, then our faith will have a true sustenance. This is a good thing and won't cause panic. The bureau chief said solemnly. Regarding this, Tang Zheng was skeptical. The other party wanted to use all kinds of seemingly high-sounding reasons to convince Tang Zheng. Unfortunately, Tang Zheng didn't buy it. Seeing that Tang Zheng was stubborn, the bureau chief frowned even more. He gradually looked at Tang Zheng aggressively and said, "You want to monopolize the dragon?" Tang Zheng thought for a while and decided to admit it openly. Otherwise, the other party would definitely keep pestering him. "I already monopolized it." "What?" The bureau chief turned pale with fright and stood up with a whoosh. He looked down at Tang Zheng with a condescending gaze. At this moment, the aura that he tried so hard to hide was finally completely released. However, the aura of a superior was completely ineffective against Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was still unfazed. He looked into the bureau chief's eyes and said, "You've heard it clearly. Monopolize the dragon? What do you want to do?" "The dragon is Hua, Xia's spiritual totem. Do you know what this means?" The bureau chief questioned. "I only know that if it's in my hands, it won't cause a disaster to this world." The bureau chief was skeptical. "We are the descendants of the dragon. Why would the appearance of the dragon bring a disaster to us?" "That's because it was imprisoned by humans back then. That's why it hates humans so much. Do you think it'll be grateful to humans or take revenge after it escapes?" The bureau chief was speechless for a moment, because this was beyond his knowledge. He didn't know that the dragon was imprisoned by humans. He subconsciously thought that the dragon was very close to humans. That was why he was so confident that he could control the dragon and use it for himself. Looking at his changing expression, Tang Zheng's head moved. He suddenly thought of a plan and asked coldly, "Are you related to the Great Lord?" "Yes." "Ah, what did you say?" The bureau chief's mind was completely immersed in the world of the dragon. He didn't expect Tang Zheng to throw this question out of the blue. His subconscious answer immediately exposed the truth. Although he immediately realized that something was wrong and quickly tried to remedy it, it was still too late. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed. This was just a guess in his heart. He didn't expect that he would be able to trick the bureau chief into revealing the truth. At that moment, the shock in his heart could be imagined. The bureau chief was actually related to the Great Lord. Was it him or the government that was related to the Great Lord? How deep was this relationship? No wonder he rejected the idea when he mentioned the Azure Dragon Palace. It turned out that they were together. He had been fooled for so long and had been kept in the dark for so long. A strong sense of vigilance surged in his heart. However, because the other party had a close relationship with the Azure Dragon Palace, he definitely knew a lot about the Azure Dragon Palace. Let's see if we can trick him again. The bureau chief was confused by Tang Zheng's question. Only then did he realize the big problem. He frowned and stared at Tang Zheng. With an unfriendly expression, he said, "Are you tricking me?" Tang Zheng said with a fake smile, "I just don't want to be kept in the dark." Then, "Have you always been telling the truth? When I asked you about the dragon, you should remember how you answered me, right?" The bureau chief asked back. Of course, Tang Zheng remembered. They didn't open up their hearts to each other. They were wary of each other and tried to cheat each other. No one could blame the other because their positions and interests were different. Tang Zheng wasn't a saint. Of course, he wouldn't stand on a moral high ground and criticize anyone. Chapter 9:10. The bureau chief couldn't do anything about Tang Zheng's attitude. If the Azure Dragon Palace found the dragon, he would have nothing to do with it. It was true that he had a close relationship with the Great Lord, but they were just using each other to maintain a fragile alliance. He couldn't command the Great Lord, and the Great Lord couldn't control him. That was why he wanted to rely on Tang Zheng to restrict the Azure Dragon Palace. But now it seemed that Tang Zheng wasn't that easy to control. His strength increased too quickly, and he was too mysterious. Now that the grudge had been formed, he couldn't make Tang Zheng change his mind. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Tang Zheng was too smart. He didn't investigate properly and was tricked into revealing the truth so easily. I will definitely get the dragon. After a long silence, the bureau chief clenched his fists and vowed. Tang Zheng smiled. Go ahead, as long as you have the ability. Tang Zheng was probably the only person who dared to question his ability in this world. He snorted coldly. If you stir up trouble again in the future, I won't clean up after you anymore. It was obvious that Tang Zheng's actions this time had touched his reverse scale. Both sides were on the verge of breaking off their relationship. Tang Zheng wasn't scared. He said lightly, as you wish. The bureau chief angrily opened the door. Everyone's eyes were immediately attracted. Feeling his anger, everyone's heart tightened. A thought appeared in their minds. The negotiation had failed. Number one was also shocked. The bureau chief was courteous and personally came to visit, but Tang Zheng didn't buy it. This was too daring. Under everyone's gazes, the bureau chief and number one hurriedly left. The others quickly surrounded Tang Zheng and asked him questions. Even Lan Yu and Mu Hongyan walked out of the kitchen and looked at him nervously. Civilians don't fight with officials, especially such a high-ranking official. No one knew what would happen in the future. Tang Zheng didn't explain much, but he wasn't so pessimistic. In the past, the big families didn't buy into the government's words and even forced them, but the government couldn't do anything. It was only because they were too powerful that the government didn't dare to act rashly. Now that Tang Zheng's strength had surpassed his, how could he be afraid of anyone? Tang Zheng waved his hand and said calmly, Everyone, don't worry. It's not as serious as you think. We're not soft persimmons that can be easily bullied. It's necessary to express our position at the right time. Officials are all two-faced and two-faced. Now that we have so many properties, will he set us up? Mu Hongyan said worriedly. This was the area she was in charge of, so she was naturally more concerned about it. She didn't want to create unnecessary trouble. Since Sister Mu is worried, then let's go to Sweden immediately and make our plate bigger so that he won't dare to act rashly. Tang Zheng had started to set foot in his overseas business. When the time came, his domestic and overseas businesses would complement each other and complement each other. Naturally, his influence would be incomparable. No matter who it was that wanted to stir up trouble, they would have to think twice first. Speaking of which, he was still looking forward to Rockefeller's properties. After all, it was a big family with hundreds of years of history. It had a much deeper foundation than the few big families in the capital. Sister Moon nodded in agreement. Then we'll leave as soon as possible, and said excitedly, That's great. I'll arrange it immediately. She ran into her room to make a call. It's not safe overseas either. You must be careful. Fang Shishir looked at Tang Zheng affectionately and reminded him. The others knew that he was going to do something important, so they didn't say that they wanted to follow him. They just kept reminding him. But the only regret was that they couldn't go to Azure Dragon Palace for the time being. Also, the bureau chief must have seen Li Xiaotian in the crowd just now. The news that Li Xiaotian was still alive would probably spread. Tang Zheng couldn't guess what the Lord would think, but he wasn't afraid. With the Empyrean ferry at home, it shouldn't be a big problem. The bureau chief left in a huff. Sitting in a Hongqi car, the atmosphere was a little tense. Number one sat in the front seat and could clearly feel the anger he was suppressing. Bureau chief, since Tang Zheng doesn't know what's good for him, we don't have to be angry with him. Number one advised carefully. What do you know? The bureau chief said in a low voice. I'm just a martial artist. Indeed, I don't know about national affairs. But Tang Zheng is different now. He's really too strong. Before number one could continue, he was interrupted by the bureau chief. What do you think I'm going to do to him? Isn't that so? Number one was stunned. It seemed that his worries were unnecessary. He let out a sigh of relief. We can't touch Tang Zheng for now, but we can't let him continue to develop like this, or else he will become a big problem one day. The bureau chief said. Then what should we do? Tell Yishuanji to come and see me. Yes. If the bureau chief wanted to see Yishuanji, he would definitely not personally visit him. This was the difference in strength between Yishuanji and Tang Zheng. When Yishuanji heard the summons, he had a stomach full of questions, but he did not dare to delay and rush to the courtyard house. The Ye family was no longer the Ye family of the past. Although the bureau chief had ordered to support the Ye family a while ago, it was still a short period of time after all, and the results had not been seen yet. Yishuanji was grateful for the bureau chief's support, but he was well aware that the other party wanted to help him fight against Tang Zheng and Yin Patian. Could it be because of this again? But didn't Tang Zheng turn the tide yesterday? Logically speaking, his relationship with the bureau chief should be further improved. Yishuanji could not figure out the mystery behind it. Under the lead of number 1, he arrived in front of the bureau chief. Elder Yi, you're here. Please take a seat. The bureau chief took the initiative to stand up and welcome him. Yishuanji was flattered, but his expression did not change in the slightest. He sat down quietly and said, Bureau chief, what can I do for you to summon this old one? Elder Yi is a famous tea expert. How about you taste my Wui Mountain Dahong Pao first? The bureau chief was not in a hurry to reveal the answer, but said neither too fast nor too slow. Yishuanji did not ask any more questions. He picked up the teacup, took a sip, and praised, Good tea. This should be the tea from the old tea trees in Wui Mountain, right? Yes, there are only a few old tea trees left. Every year, there's only this little bit. If Elder Yi likes it, then bring a share back. The bureau chief said generously. This was a tribute, and ordinary people could not drink it at all. Yishuanji was a person who loved tea, so he accepted it respectfully. However, he was even more uncertain in his heart. If he gave a sweet date before talking about serious matters, then the following matter would not be a small matter. Elder Yi, I heard that the matters of the Ye family are now being taken care of by your grandson. Yiku? The bureau chief asked. Yes, after all, time waits for no man. This old one is already old, so it is better to leave it to the younger generation. I will enjoy a life of leisure. Elder Yi is too modest. You are old but vigorous. How many young people cannot compare to you? How can you just go into seclusion like this? The Ye family has reached great heights and should go further. How can this not be done without an old helmsman like you at the helm? Yishuanji's heart moved. He said thoughtfully, Now that the situation in the capital has changed greatly, the Ye family is struggling to survive in the cracks. How can they go further? It is good to maintain the status quo. Elder Ye's thinking is wrong. The Ye family is a century-old family. Ups and downs are common. How can they be frightened by the difficulties in front of them? In my opinion, the Ye family has great potential. The bureau chief looked straight at Yishuanji and said. Yishuanji also looked up. Their eyes met and asked, Bureau chief, do you really think so? Of course. The bureau chief nodded. Yishuanji became excited. But the difficulties that the Ye family is facing are not small. If there are difficulties, then overcome them. To Elder Yi, difficulties are only motivation to move forward. As long as Elder Yi has the heart, nothing will be a problem. This was a direct reassurance for him. It was much more powerful than the secret support in the past. This was support on the surface and also a promise. With this promise, even if the Ye family was in the cracks between the Tang Zheng and the Yin family, they could still find a ray of hope and grow strong. Although Yishuanji looked disheartened on the surface and looked like he was going into seclusion, the fire in his heart was not extinguished. He wanted to lead the Ye family to greater heights and further. Now that the bureau chief had said this, the fire in his heart shot up. His thoughts were also active. Since the bureau chief has orders, the Ye family will naturally go through fire and water. If it was the Ye family of the past, Yishuanji would definitely not say this. He would even pretend to be reserved. But now, he would be an idiot if he still pretended to be reserved. The bureau chief nodded happily. The older the ginger, the spicier, the wiser. Talking to smart people is really easy. Elder Yi, please rest assured. I will fully support the Yef family. I will definitely restore the glory of the Yef family of the past. No, surpass the glory of the past, and let the Yef family become the leader of the capital. The bureau chief said firmly. This old man thanks you. Yi Xuanji quickly got up and slightly cupped his hands. Yi Xuanji left with a heart full of pride. Although he did not ask what happened between the bureau chief and Tang Zheng, he could still guess a thing or two. Tang Zheng was young and full of vigor. He was completely out of the bureau chief's control. He was afraid that there was a conflict between the two, which gave the Yef family an opportunity to take advantage of. Yi Xuanji was an experienced person. He knew the situation in the country very well. With the support of the government, the Yef family's development momentum would increase by leaps and bounds. But when he thought of Tang Zheng, he couldn't help but feel a little guilty. He knew more about Tang Zheng than ordinary people, especially when Tang Zheng saved his life in the world of spirits and souls. It made him even more afraid of Tang Zheng's supernatural means. But things were unpredictable. He had already walked to the opposite side of Tang Zheng. If he wavered, it would be bad. Since the bureau chief supported him to compete with Tang Zheng, then let's have a good fight. The bureau chief looked out of the door. The sun shone down from the sky and passed through the gaps between the leaves, sprinkling mottled spots of light. Number 1. In Tang Zheng's residence, did you notice one of the girls? There were too many girls in the Tang family. Even if number 1 had a firm mind, he was still dazzled. He asked blankly, which one is the bureau chief talking about? Is Li Xiaotian among them? The bureau chief had only seen Li Xiaotian's photo. Moreover, there was a rumor that Li Xiaotian was dead some time ago, so he felt a little strange. Chapter 9:11. After number 1 confirmed Li Xiaotian's identity, both he and the bureau chief had strange expressions on their faces. Li Xiaotian and Tang Zheng were sworn enemies. Why would he appear next to him and be so docile? Also, what was with the news of his death? Could it be a fake death to confuse people? The bureau chief suddenly thought of a possibility and turned pale with fright. Could it be that the Azure Dragon Palace and Tang Zheng have secretly joined forces? The so-called fight to the death situation was all done on purpose to deceive me? He was startled by the thought. But in an instant, he thought of Tang Zheng's previous attitude. This attitude showed that Tang Zheng and the Azure Dragon Palace were still incompatible like fire and water. He was completely confused. He would never have thought that Li Xiaotian had lost his memory. Should I question the Lord in person? He was caught in a dilemma. After hesitating for a while, he decided to suppress this discovery in his heart for the time being. Whether they are acting or have other plans, I'd better wait and see. Let them think that I haven't found out anything fishy about them. Because of this concern, the news that Li Xiaotian was still alive was concealed and not sent back to the Azure Dragon Palace. This was beyond Tang Zheng's expectations. And ticked. The princess's arrangement was very fast. Before Tang Zheng could go to the Imperial City to ask the five-clawed golden dragon about the Langia Pavilion and the Tai Chi 2 form sword technique, she had already settled everything. Even Qi Yu and the inner demons could not recognize this sword technique. It was probably not simple. Tian Chanzi and the Empyrean Fairy might not know either. Therefore, he did not ask them at all. The weather was clear and there were no clouds in the sky. Tang Zheng, Mu Hongyan, Tian Chanzi, and Princess and boarded the special plane to Sweden. Other than the flight attendants, they were the only passengers on the Gulfstream commercial airliner, and took on the role of a guide and introduced the culture and customs of her country to Tian Chanzi. Mu Hongyan inadvertently glanced at Tang Zheng and found that he was facing the window, seemingly admiring the scenery in the sky. Ever since the last time the two of them almost had sex, the two of them had not had any intimate contact. This was because Tang Zheng was too busy during this period of time. Moreover, they were under the watchful eyes of others, so the two of them did not have the guts to do so. Tang Zheng turned his head and coincidentally met Mu Hongyan's eyes. Mu Hongyan quickly averted her gaze, her ears turning red. This time, It was inevitable that the two of them would have a chance to be alone together. He wondered if something would happen. When she thought of this, her heart couldn't help but beat wildly. Ever since she had that thought, she felt more and more that Tang Zheng was full of charm that she couldn't resist. There were several times when Tang Zheng appeared in her dreams. When she woke up, she found that the sheets were wet, making her feel ashamed. Tang Zheng didn't think too much about it. He was thinking about the problems he would encounter when he went abroad. The plane smoothly landed on the runway. A motorcade was already waiting there. The red carpet was laid out all the way to the airport's gangway. Tang Zheng and the others walked out of the cabin door and saw two familiar people, the head butler of the royal family, Bruce, and the princess's bodyguard, Bezer. The two people's eyes focused on the princess at the same time. They politely bowed and saluted. "Welcome back to the country. Welcome all the guests." Princess smiled and said, "Bruce, don't be so reserved. They're very easy to talk to." "Princess, etiquette cannot be abolished," Bruce solemnly said. Princess and secretly stuck out her tongue and didn't try to persuade him anymore. After all, she was a 19-year-old girl. When she stepped on her homeland, she was in high spirits. She took a deep breath and sighed. "Homeland is so good." Bruce added courteously, "Distinguished guests, please get in the carriage." The few people entered the two luxury cars. Princess and accompanied Tian Chanzi in one car. Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan entered the car behind. The luxury car with the Swedish flag at the front drove out of the airport with the police car opening the way. Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan both stepped on this country for the second time. They were not unfamiliar with it. They turned their heads to look at the scenery outside the window for a while. Then they coincidentally withdrew their gazes. The two people's eyes inadvertently intertwined. Tang Zheng's head moved, but he didn't move away. Mu Hongyan's heart was in a panic. She quickly turned her head, trying to resolve the subtle awkwardness. Suddenly, her hand was tightly gripped by a large hand. Her breathing immediately quickened as her face blushed all the way to her ears. She was so charming and beautiful that she couldn't compare to anyone else. She tried to struggle, but to no avail. She could only let Tang Zheng hold her hand. As if holding a soft jade in the palm of his hand, Tang Zheng's heart rippled. His fingers gently slid in her palm. The slightly numb and itchy feeling made her heart feel like a cat was scratching it. It was very subtle. She glared at Tang Zheng, as if she wanted him to be more honest. However, Tang Zheng's mouth hooked up into a playful smile. His fingertips condensed a trace of true energy, which wandered in her palm. Her whole body trembled. Her body became limp and numb. She weakly leaned against the back of the seat and glared at him with hidden bitterness. This enemy, there was a driver in front, but he dared to be so brazen. He really wanted to die. He made a fool of himself. Her heart was burning. How could Tang Zheng not be? Seeing her breath like an orchid, he couldn't wait to continue what he had not finished last time. Dong! Tang Zheng's phone fell onto the car. Tang Zheng bent down to pick it up. His body pressed against her thigh. Mu Hongyan was embarrassed and anxious. She knew that he must have done it on purpose. His face was almost pressed against her thin black silk stockings. Her skin could clearly feel the heat of his breath. Her heart almost jumped out of her throat, but she couldn't have too big of a reaction. Otherwise, if the driver in front saw it, what would he think? Tang Zheng picked up the phone, but was not in a hurry to get up. He gently sniffed the fragrance coming from her body. The perfume on her body smelled very good. It was not too strong or too light. It was just right. Bo! Tang Zheng's lips gently kissed the back of her hand. She felt as if she had been electrocuted. Her whole body trembled. It was as if she had turned into a pool of water. Her eyes could even drip water. Moreover, she felt that her skirt was wet. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. This enemy really wanted to kill her. Tang Zheng stopped. In order to avoid arousing the driver's suspicion, he unhurriedly sat up straight and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Sister Mu, you seem to be very sensitive." Mu Hongyan no longer had any strength in her body. She could only look at him helplessly. After a while, she said, "Stop messing around. Otherwise, when we get off the car later, I will make a fool of myself." Tang Zheng smiled mischievously, then begged me. Mu Hongyan looked at him pitifully. Finally, she helplessly said, "I beg you. If you want to beg someone, you should at least give me a gift." Tang Zheng did not give up. "What gift do you want?" "Sister Mu, you're the best gift." This sentence ruthlessly hit the softest part of her heart. Her heartstrings trembled and her breathing quickened. She could not say another word. Looking at her shy appearance, Tang Zheng had an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. In front of other women, he would say beautiful words of love, but he would not tease her so and scrupulously. But looking at her shy appearance, he could not help but have the urge to tease her. Tang Zheng did not push his luck. He really did not do anything out of line. Seeing him behave, Mu Hongyan finally breathed a sigh of relief. But she also felt an inexplicable sense of loss. The motorcade finally arrived in front of the magnificent palace. The royal family had actually prepared a grand, welcoming ceremony. However, these people were all calm and did not have the slightest bit of stage fright. Mu Hongyan had already calmed down. She smiled sweetly and looked like a charming lady. She attracted the attention of countless people. She was even comparable to Princess Anne. Westerners prefer this kind of mature beauty. Princess Anne was beautiful, but in the end, she was too immature. Of course, Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi also received a lot of attention. They looked at the welcoming team expressionlessly. These people were all Swedish nobles and dignitaries. These people basically did not know why the king would receive them with such a high standard of etiquette. They were very confused and kept guessing. No one would think that this was related to Nicholas's death, and no one would think that Nicholas had died in the hands of this young man in front of them. The king personally received them, making them in the limelight for a while. There were even some people in the crowd who recognized Tang Zheng as the mysterious knight of Princess Annie, who was once the talk of the town. Princess Annie was no longer a child. Could it be that Princess Annie and the knight were about to have a happy ending? Why did the king welcome her with such fanfare? Could it be that Princess Annie and the knight were about to have a happy ending? Marriage? Many people had this idea in their minds. They were very shocked. Was Princess Anne really going to marry a Huaxia? The power of rumors and slanders was great, and by the time the welcoming ceremony was over, the rumors and slanders had quietly changed. Princess Annie and Tang Zheng were about to hold their wedding ceremony. The protagonist of this rumor had no idea that he had already entered the palace and was arranged to stay there. Brosnan told them that there would be a welcome dinner in the evening. They were tired from the journey and could take a rest first. Tang Zheng found that he was living in the same room as last time. The room next door was Feng Shishi's room last time. There, the two of them secretly did a lot of things. Even the royal family did not know about it. However, this time it was Mu Hongyan next door. He had an idea in his mind. He would wait until it was dark and then turn over to see what would happen. This was a rare opportunity for the two of them to be alone. In the car, they had already ignited the fire in each other's hearts. If they did not do something at night, Tang Zheng doubted whether his pure yang power could be controlled. The rumor spread very quickly. They had already reached the ears of the king and queen. The two of them looked at each other in surprise. The queen could not help but ask, "Is Anne really in love with Tang Zheng?" The king also shook his head in confusion. "I don't know. Brosnan knows more about these things. I'll summon him in to ask." After a while, Brosnan came in. When he heard the question, he hesitated for a long time and said, "When they were in Huaxia, Her Royal Highness lived in Tang Zheng's house." "What? Why didn't you tell me this before?" The king was shocked. The queen's face also stiffened. Chapter 9:12. Faced with the king's questioning, Bruce quickly explained, "There are other people living in Tang Zheng's house, not just the two of them. Moreover, Her Royal Highness guaranteed that there is absolutely no inappropriate relationship with Tang Zheng, so I did not report to your majesty. This is a dereliction of duty." "Humph, it must be, and who told you not to tell us, right?" The king knew his daughter very well, and asked a question that hit the nail on the head. Bruce smiled and did not say anything, which could be considered as a tacit agreement. The queen asked doubtfully, "You said that there are other people living in Tang Zheng's house." "Yes, the Misma you saw today is living in his house, and there are some others." "Why are there so many people living in his house?" "Maybe they're all good friends living together, so they can take care of each other." Bruce was not too clear about the relationship between Tang Zheng and the others, so he speculated. Seeing that nothing really happened between the two, the king and queen were relieved, but they still sternly warned, "This matter must not be known to outsiders. Understand?" "Understood. This time, and return to the country and will not go to Huaxia again. Since the two of them are separated, naturally nothing will happen," the king said. The queen looked at the king in surprise and said, "You want to bring her back? Don't you want her to keep in touch with that group of cultivators?" The king smiled mysteriously. This time, even Tian Chanzi was invited. "I naturally have a way to improve my relationship with the cultivators. There is no need for and to appear in public." The queen was thoughtful, but when she thought of the rumors, she felt a headache. "I don't know who spread these rumors. It's really not something a gentleman should do. The welcome banquet and ball in the evening will eliminate this misunderstanding. We can't let the rumors continue to ferment." The king was full of confidence. The banquet was held in a huge banquet hall, and many elites gathered together. Tang Zheng, Mu Hongyan, and Tian Chanzi were specially arranged to be near the king and queen, which showed their status. When everyone saw this scene, they felt that the rumors were not false. The king stood up and said, "Guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are all gathered here today to give a grand welcome to our distinguished guests from the East. Please allow me to introduce our three distinguished guests again. This is Anne's master, Tian Chanzi. This is the young and promising Mr. Tang Zheng. This is the beautiful Ms. Mu Hongyan. Their company will reach strategic cooperation with our country. We will develop together in the fields of finance, technology, service, and so on. It will be mutually beneficial." After hearing such a detailed introduction, everyone finally understood that these three people were indeed from a powerful background. However, the doubts in their hearts grew even stronger, especially Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan's company. They had never heard of this name before. Why did they suddenly appear and form a cooperation? Princess and kept looking at Tang Zheng with a sweet smile. Because the two of them sat across from each other at the dining table, it was easy for their gazes to meet. In other people's eyes, there was a hint of flirting. They suddenly realized that this mysterious knight was able to obtain these cooperation because of Princess. And wasn't this the so-called living off a woman in the East? No matter which country, men who lived off women were always looked down upon. Therefore, many elites cast disdainful gazes at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng also felt these gazes and couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. He didn't know them, so why were their gazes so unkind? The banquet went smoothly. Compared to the East, the banquets in the West were less lively. They ate politely and were as gentlemanly as they could be. This was a scene that many domestic women dreamed of. It was high-end and classy. Perhaps many women wouldn't have time to eat and would just take photos and post them on their WeChat moments. Tang Zheng only hoped that it would end soon. Finally, in his impatient wait, the banquet came to an end. The king and queen were the first to stand up, and the others also stood up one after another. They filed out and went to another hall next door. The ball had begun. People gathered in twos and threes, and there was more freedom. Tang Zheng had no objection to this arrangement. After all, the host attached great importance to it, and he couldn't refuse the other party's good intentions. On the other hand, the heaven monk was like a fish in water. Although he did not know how to speak foreign languages, he had a good appearance with a sage-like demeanor, which attracted the favor of many noble ladies from other countries. When the music started, Tian Chanzi was pulled to the dance floor by a young woman who was at least 30-60. Damn! Tang Zheng's eyes widened. This old hooligan actually made his move so quickly. The size of the chest was really spectacular. It turned out that he liked this type. "Your Royal Highness, may I invite you to dance?" A handsome blond man wearing a tuxedo walked over and bowed slightly to Anne. He was incomparably gentlemanly. Princess and smiled at him and said, "Alex, I'm sorry. Someone has already invited me for the first dance." After saying that, she stretched out her slender jade hand to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment. "What was this for? My Mr. Knight, could it be that you don't want to invite me to dance?" Princess and winked at Tang Zheng and said with a smile, "I don't know how to." Tang Zheng said truthfully, "Was this a rejection?" Alex was dumbfounded. This brat actually rejected Princess, and this was the dream of many people. He couldn't help but feel a little jealous. But then he thought, "You don't know how to, but I do." He eagerly looked at Princess and, hoping that Princess would give up on this unromantic guy, but acted as if she didn't see his eyes. She looked at Tang Zheng in surprise and asked, "You don't know how to?" Immediately, she smiled again, like the most beautiful flower in the world blooming. It was as if she had discovered something amazing. This kind of smile from the bottom of her heart made Alex feel very hurt and jealous. Alex was not an ordinary person. He was one of the many suitors of Princess, and, moreover, he was also a famous suitor. Ever since Princess turned 15 years old, he launched a fierce pursuit and chose to sail around the world. Part of the reason was that she couldn't stand his pursuit. Alex dared to do this. Of course, he had a background. Otherwise, how could an ordinary citizen dare to pursue a princess so crazily? At most, they would just look from afar and be satisfied. Alex's family was Europe's oldest and largest family, Rothschild. This family was very secretive. Ordinary people simply didn't know about it. They had never even heard of it. But the group of people who stood at the top of the world was like thunder in their ears. This family was involved in various fields and had a decisive influence on Europe. Back then, the Rockefeller family attacked Europe and assassinated the royal families of various countries. This caused panic and lasted for nearly a century. During this period, in addition to the resistance of the royal families of various countries, the biggest resistance force was the Rothschild family. Some people said that the Rothschild family was Europe's last line of defense. If this family fell, then Europe would completely fall. Fortunately, the Rothschild family persevered under the attack of the Rockefeller family's vampires and werewolves. The king had once told Tang Zheng about this period of history. However, he omitted the important Rothschild family. Even the royal families of various European countries didn't mention this family in their history books. This was because the royal families couldn't say that they kept the country and the throne because of this family and not because of their own efforts. This was slapping their own face. No one was willing to do such a stupid thing. The Rothschild family also didn't mind the royal families of various countries erasing their contributions. This family wasn't as popular as the Rockefeller family and frequently appeared in the public eye. They were better at, or rather, liked to lie dormant. If they encountered an enemy, they could take advantage of the situation and give the enemy a fatal blow. Of course, the most talked about were the 12 holy knights of this family. These were the 12 people who played a significant role in the long battle with the Rockefeller family and were conferred the title of Holy Knights. Countless vampires and werewolves died at the hands of the Holy Knights. It could be said that they were the most powerful group of people in Europe. Of course, they were also the most secretive group. They were like ghosts. Very few people knew of their existence. Even the royal families of various countries didn't know where the Holy Knights were today. Moreover, decades had passed since the battle that year. Were the 12 Holy Knights still alive? Even if they were already close to 100 years old. Could they still fight? But no one dared to question this question. I thought you knew everything. Finally, I found something you don't know. This is great. Princess Anne said happily, as if she had discovered a new continent. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes speechlessly. What was there to be happy about? I'll teach you if you don't know. It's very simple. You're so smart. You'll learn it quickly. And took the initiative to pull Tang Zheng up and walk to the dance floor. Alex looked at this scene angrily. He invited Anne to dance, but she rejected him without hesitation. This stupid guy didn't know how to dance, but she volunteered to teach him. At that moment, he was completely inferior to Tang Zheng. To be defeated by a guy who lived off a woman was like being slapped hard in the face. He even had the intention to kill someone. Tang Zheng didn't care about this brother's thoughts. Looking at Princess N's back, he felt helpless. He couldn't just reject her. After all, she was a princess of a country. Her subjects were all watching. If he rejected her, he was afraid that he would be killed by their eyes. However, when and held his hand and walked to the dance floor, they immediately attracted the attention of most people. Princess N gave the first one to the mysterious knight. The relationship between the two was even more clear. It seemed that the rumors were true. Alex stood there in a daze. Seeing other people looking at him, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. He turned his eyes and saw Mu Hongyan. His eyes flashed with a touch of surprise, and then he politely invited, "Beautiful Miss Mu, may I invite you to dance?" Mu Hongyan's eyes were fixed on Tang Zheng. Her heart was slightly sour. Hearing Alex's invitation, she refused without hesitation. "Sorry, I'm a little tired. I don't want to dance." She smiled faintly and walked to the side, leaving Alex standing there like a puppet in a daze, his mind in a mess. Chapter 9:13. Alex watched with jealousy as Tang Zheng and Princess N danced on the dance floor. Tang Zheng's movements were very rusty, and he couldn't even grasp the rhythm. He was obviously a rookie, and Princess N had been guiding him. If it wasn't for her, he would have already made a fool of himself. This made Alex burn with jealousy. You didn't look for a ready-made dance king, but chose this brat. Wasn't this just looking for trouble for yourself? Later, when you make a fool of yourself, you will know how unwise your choice was. Tang Zheng's movements attracted the attention of the others. Their lips curled into a faint smile, and they couldn't hide the contempt in their eyes. So this mysterious knight was only SOSO. They didn't know why Princess N would fancy him. And lightly sucked in a breath of cold air, and her mouth slightly twitched. This was because Tang Zheng's foot stepped on her again. Although Tang Zheng was an expert cultivator, it was inevitable that he would make a beginner's mistake. Looking at the burning gazes of the people around him, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. "It's okay. It will be fine in a while. I believe in you." N's lips curled up. She didn't take it to heart and leaned close to his ear, comforting him in a low voice. A burst of fragrance entered his nose, making him feel relaxed and happy. Her body leaned against him, as if they were close, yet not far. It was exceptionally moving. If it was someone else, they would probably be so excited that they would have a nosebleed. Tang Zheng's breathing was steady. Although there were slight ripples in his heart, he didn't show it. "Okay, thank you." Tang Zheng wasn't discouraged. "Since you want to see me make a fool of myself, how can I let you do as you wish?" Tang Zheng's control of his body and rhythm could be said to be at the level of a master. Although he made a fool of himself at the beginning, his learning speed was extremely fast and displayed his high dancing talent. N's eyes lit up. "Yes, that's it. You learn quite fast." Tang Zheng smiled. "It's all because you taught me well." "Of course," and raised her eyebrows and proudly boasted. Their dance steps began to harmonize. Tang Zheng gradually took the initiative, leading and to perform all kinds of beautiful and difficult moves. Immediately, the two of them became the focus of attention. This was not because of Anne's princess halo, but because of their dance. Just now, many people were silently criticizing Tang Zheng for being a rookie and waiting to see him make a fool of himself. Now, it was as if they had swallowed a fly, choking them speechless. Alex's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. What the F***CK is this called not knowing how to dance? Are you playing with me? He became more and more furious, thinking that Tang Zheng was obviously lying to him just now, pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. "I will turn you into a real pig." He glared at Tang Zheng hatefully. He had seen many of Anne's suitors, and of course, there was no lack of outstanding ones, but they were all defeated by him and left the scene. He was confident that one day he would be able to carry the beauty home, but halfway through, there was a Chun Yaojin. No, a mysterious knight, and rumors about him with the princess spread like wildfire. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. When he heard that princess and went to Huaxia, he wanted to immediately chase after her, but his family did not allow him to set foot in Huaxia, which made him full of anger. What knight? That was a name given by ignorant people. They had never seen a real knight, so they could imagine the power of a knight. How could this Tang Zheng be compared to the paladin in his family? He was not even worthy to carry her shoes. If Princess Anne's heart was captured by others, Alex might not have such a big reaction, but to be captured by an unknown Easterner, he absolutely could not accept this kind of failure. Looking at the two dancing like a prince and a princess, he clenched his teeth, thinking that the person in the spotlight should be me. He subconsciously clenched his fists, and I will let you know who is your prince and who is the toad at the bottom of the well. At the end of the song, Tang Zheng and finished with a difficult and classic dance, winning warm applause from the audience. This time, it was heartfelt applause. Although many people did not think highly of this pair, there was no dispute about their dance, so to receive this applause, it was well-deserved. Dance King. Someone gave a thumbs up, and then the others followed. The title of Dance King instantly fell on the rookie Tang Zheng's head. Alex's eyes turned red. This should have been his title, but it was taken away by this brat. How hateful. The two bowed and left the dance floor, but was still holding Tang Zheng's hand tightly, making others envious. She looked at him with a smile, her eyes full of affection, and a faint charming smile appeared on her mouth. You danced so well. This is the happiest and most satisfying dance I have ever danced. You flatter me. Tang Zheng did not care, his eyes searching for Mu Hongyan's figure in the crowd. He was dancing happily here, so he did not want her to have any ideas. I'm going to the bathroom. Tang Zheng did not see Mu Hongyan. His heart moved, and left, leaving and looking at his back with burning eyes. The queen came over. Looking at her daughter's burning eyes, she could not help but have a headache. Originally, she wanted to take this opportunity to clarify the relationship between the two, but the more she tried, the worse it became. In the eyes of others, the two seemed to be more and more in that direction. The queen just heard a few people whispering that the two were a good match. Anne, mother, and intimately took the queen's arm. Did I dance well? The queen lovingly patted her hand and said, Of course you did well. Tang Zheng is so good. You don't know that this is his first time dancing. Is it really his first time? The queen's eyes opened wide in surprise. She was like everyone else, originally thinking that the awkwardness at the beginning was deliberately created by the two, but she did not expect that Tang Zheng was really a rookie. Of course, he is good, right? And showed off. The queen did not answer, falling into deep worry. The more outstanding Tang Zheng was, the faster and would fall, which was not a good thing. At this time, Alex came over and persistently sent an invitation to Anne, and faintly smiled and tactfully declined. I'm sorry, I'm tired, I need to rest for a while. Another refusal. Alex angrily roared in his heart. The wind messed up, and his hatred for Tang Zheng increased. Without a doubt, all of this was because of that brat. In the past, and was not so cold to him. Seeing Alex return in disappointment, the queen worriedly said, And Alex has pursued you for so long. Why are you becoming colder and colder to him? I don't like him. I'm tired of him chasing me. And pouted and unhappily said, Alex is actually very outstanding. You need to calm down and understand him better. The queen advised, and rolled her eyes and coquettishly said, Mother, how can he be as outstanding as Tang Zheng? He is only relying on his family, not his own ability. Family is also a kind of resource, an advantage. There is nothing bad about it. In any case, I don't like the Rothschild family. Since you know that he is a member of the Rothschild family, you shouldn't be so cold to him. So what if he is from the Rothschild family? I don't like him. I just don't like him. And stubbornly turned her head and coldly snorted. The queen was helpless and could only sigh in her heart. Many royal families in Europe had ideas about the Rothschild family, wanting to further their relationship with them, and had this opportunity, but she refused it. She really didn't know whether to say it was lucky or unlucky. Tang Zheng left to pee and finally found Mu Hongyan on a balcony. She was foolishly looking at the night sky. The night wind blew her long skirt and elegant black hair. The night sky was cloudless and filled with stars. It had a kind of intoxicating beauty. Mu Hongyan heard footsteps and turned around, looking at Tang Zheng in surprise. "Why are you here? Aren't you going to dance with Anne? What, are you jealous?" The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth hooked up as he teased. "Why would I be jealous?" Mu Hongyan pretended to smile lightly. The night wind blew, and she subconsciously hugged her arms. Tang Zheng took off his coat and put it on her. Her heart warmed, and she did not refuse, turning to look at the night sky again. "The night sky here is really beautiful. There's too much fog in the capital. It is hard to see this kind of night sky." Mu Hongyan said. Tang Zheng naturally hugged her from behind and said, "It won't be long before the night sky in the capital also becomes beautiful." The tree of life was transforming the world's spiritual energy. As long as the spiritual energy was rich, the air would become better. "Don't be like this, we will be seen." Mu Hongyan's body tensed up. Her cheeks flushed red as she hurriedly refused, trying to break free from Tang Zheng's embrace. Tang Zheng allowed her to struggle, but he did not let go, not allowing her to refute as he said, "Don't move, otherwise if other people are attracted, I won't be responsible." Mu Hongyan bitterly looked up at him and faintly said, "You're bullying me." "How am I bullying you? How could I bear to?" "The night wind is so strong, I was afraid that you would catch a cold, so I hugged you to give you warmth." Although she knew that these were empty words, her heart could not help softening as a warm current flowed through her. She gave up struggling and allowed him to intimately hug her. With the night wind blowing, the two of them did not say a single word, but it felt like their hearts were tightly pressed together. An unprecedented sense of security enveloped her heart as her body softened. It was like she was soaking in a hot spring, relaxing her entire body. "Everyone is talking about you and Princess, and what do you think?" Mu Hongyan suddenly asked. "What should I think?" Tang Zheng asked back. "She is the princess that everyone has their eyes on, with so many people drooling over her. Could it be that you're not moved at all?" "I'm not moved. Compared to her, you are the one who moves me." Tang Zheng moved close to her ear and gently said, "You're not ashamed." Mu Hongyan glared at him, but her heart was filled with happiness. No matter what kind of woman they were, they all liked to hear words of love, and she was no exception. "These are my heartfelt words. How could I be ashamed?" Tang Zheng lowered his head and hugged her head, raising her neck. She knew what was coming and felt a bit of anticipation, but also a bit embarrassed. There was only a door between them and the others, so what if they were seen? But before she could think about it, that gentleness had already covered her red lips. With an explosion in her mind, she did not think about anything else as she immersed herself in this gentleness. Chapter 9:14. Alex looked at the scene outside the door in disbelief. He staggered and almost fell flat on his face. He rubbed his eyes to make sure that he was not seeing things. Tang Zheng was actually kissing that charming woman. He was so shocked that his jaw dropped to the ground. This brat actually dared to have a foot on 2 boats and deceive the princess. He was so angry that he was ready to teach these two a lesson and let and see his true colors. But on second thought, he retracted his foot, and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. To catch a thief, catch the evidence, catch an adulterer, catch a couple. If it was just based on my empty words, and might not believe me. Instead, she might think that I am trying to sow discord. Humph! I will go find her and let her see it with her own eyes. This brat will have no way to quibble. Thinking of this, he was so excited that he quickly left quietly. Alex found and told her his discovery loudly and bluntly, which naturally attracted other people's attention. "And I will let you see this person's true colors." He actually dared to fool around with other women behind your back. They are on the balcony. You will understand my good intentions with just one look. When everyone heard that Princess Anne's mysterious knight dared to have such a daring rendezvous with his lover on the balcony, they could not help but be shocked. The flames of gossip burned in their hearts. This was a good show. How could they miss it? The king and queen looked at each other. Their eyes flashed with deep worry. If this was true, then it would be a scandal for the royal family. And had a calm expression. Tang Jing already had a girlfriend. Even if something really happened between him and someone, she would not be surprised. However, Alex actually mentioned Tang Jing and Mu Hongyan. This was something that she did not expect, so she wanted to see what was going on. And look, Alex pointed to the balcony as if he was presenting a treasure and shouted himself hoarse. Look at how shameless they are. How can this kind of person be worthy of you? This kind of shameless person should be chased out of the holy palace. Alex's accusation was powerful, and everyone looked towards the balcony. Ah! A woman's scream rang out. Alex was overjoyed and said even more excitedly, "Catch them in the act. Let's see how this adulterous couple will quibble this time." Everyone looked at the scene on the balcony with a strange expression. They looked at Alex meaningfully. Alex felt uncomfortable being stared at by everyone. He subconsciously turned his head to look. Immediately, his mouth opened wide. He stared at the two people on the balcony in disbelief and roared, "Why are you guys here? Isn't it Tang Jing?" The two people on the balcony were a well-known couple. They were shocked and at a loss, but they immediately calmed down. It wasn't like they were caught red-handed. What was there to be afraid of? However, their expressions became extremely gloomy as they glared at Alex and asked angrily, "Alex, what is the meaning of this?" Alex was stunned. He never thought that things would turn out like this. For a moment, he was at a loss. He muttered to himself, "Impossible. It was clearly them. How did it become you guys?" The two of them had coincidentally left when Tang Jing and Mu Hongyan left, and then secretly came here to kiss each other. However, they didn't expect that this romantic act would be destroyed by Alex's deranged actions, and coldly looked at Alex and angrily said, "A true gentleman should not do this kind of nonsense. I want you to apologize to Tang Jing." Alex quickly shook his head. "No, it's not like that. I clearly saw Tang Jing. How could it be them?" "What do you mean? The evidence is right in front of you. Do you still want to quibble? If you don't apologize, then don't expect me to say a word to you in the future," Princess Anne resolutely said. Alex was both angry and confused. What the F***K was going on? He was sure that he did not see wrong. However, he did not know that Tang Jing's cultivation was shocking. If he dared to do this kind of thing on the balcony, then he naturally had confidence. When Alex walked past the door, Tang Jing noticed him but did not say anything. Then he pulled Mu Hongyan into the ballroom. Mu Hongyan's heart almost jumped out of her throat. Her body was weak, and her cheeks were red as if she was drunk. She hurriedly hid in the bathroom to calm herself down and touch up her makeup. Tang Jing, on the other hand, was a quiet, pretty boy in a corner, watching with interest as Alex brought a large group of people to catch the adulterers. Everyone looked at this scene and secretly shook their heads. Alex must be dizzy. He actually used such a clumsy method to sow discord. This time he was asking for trouble. The king and queen simultaneously let out a sigh of relief. It was fortunate that the royal family did not make a fool of themselves. Immediately, everyone looked at Alex with unfriendly expressions. Alex was riding a tiger and could not back down. However, he still stubbornly said, I definitely did not see wrong," and gave a cold snort and turned around to leave without saying a word. "And don't go. Listen to my explanation," Alex loudly shouted, and did not turn her head and said, "Unless you apologize to Tang Jing, don't expect me to forgive you," and just happened to see Tang Jing in the corner. She immediately walked over to him and angrily said, "Tang Jing, Alex has sinister intentions. Don't listen to his nonsense." Tang Jing smiled and looked at Alex without saying a word. His heart panicked from being looked at, and he became even angrier. He loudly shouted, "I clearly saw you," Tang Jing indifferently asked. And the result? In the end, Alex stuttered, but he couldn't say anything. The result was seen by everyone. I don't need to say more, Tang Zheng said with a smile. Yes, the result was that he deliberately tried to drive a wedge between us. This kind of person is too hateful. And chimed in. Alex was at a loss for words. He pointed at Tang Zheng. His cheeks were red as he angrily said, I will make you regret what you did today. This is Europe, not your backward Huaxia. Tang Zheng's face darkened and said, Arrogant, a frog at the bottom of a well. Even today, you dare to say that my great Huaxia is backward. Although there were many problems in the country, there was no doubt that this country was becoming stronger and stronger. At the very least, it was not backward. Of course, many people in the West still brought the Huaxia from 100 years ago into the current Huaxia. These people were ignorant and ignorant. They were the real frogs at the bottom of a well. Tang Zheng's words were powerful, and a formless aura enveloped Alex's body. Alex was shocked and sat on the ground. He actually had an illusion that Tang Zheng was like a mountain that was difficult to look up at. The pressure made his heart feel as if it was about to stop beating. This was the result of Tang Zheng's dragon's might erupting. Seeing Alex's battered and exhausted appearance, the crowd burst into laughter. Alex's cheeks were red. He angrily climbed up and angrily said, I will definitely make you regret what you did today. After he finished speaking, he pushed away the crowd and ran away in a sorry state like a defeated general. Seeing this, and hurriedly comforted, Tang Zheng, don't listen to his nonsense. With me here, no one will dare to hurt you. Do you think he can hurt me? Tang Zheng faintly smiled and was slightly startled. It seems that I was thinking too much. Seeing this scene, the king couldn't help but feel a headache. Alex wasn't an ordinary noble. He represented the Rothschild family. It wasn't a wise decision to become enemies with him. The ball didn't last long before it dispersed. The king called out to Tang Zheng, and the two of them went to the study together. Bruce gently closed the door and retreated outside, quietly waiting for the summons. The king looked at Tang Zheng with a serious expression and said, You made Alex look bad tonight. I'm afraid he will hold a grudge. Tang Zheng didn't mind and said, Is your majesty worried about my safety? There is no need. I know that you are quite capable and are a cultivator. However, there are also very powerful existences in Europe. They might not be weaker than you cultivators. The king muttered. Tang Zheng's heart moved and asked, Could it be that there are still remnants of vampires and werewolves in Europe? Those remnants are nothing to worry about. I'm talking about another group of people. Oh, Tang Zheng's thick eyebrows rose. This was new information. I'd like to hear the details. The king originally didn't want to tell Tang Zheng about the Rothschild family. After all, the royal family played a dishonorable role in it back then. However, now that things had developed to this point, if he didn't give Tang Zheng some pointers, he would be young and impetuous. In the end, he would cause a huge mess, and it wouldn't be easy to clean up. Although he trusted Tang Zheng's strength, this was Europe after all. Europe was more ancient than the Atlantic Empire. The various powers here were complicated and maintained a fragile balance. If he wasn't careful, he would ignite a powder keg and break this balance. That would be a huge problem. In addition to the royal families on the surface, there is actually a large power in Europe, the Rothschild family. This is an old family that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Rockefeller family. The king didn't hide anything and told Tang Zheng about the past, letting him know the power of the Rothschild family. The 12 paladins repelled the Rockefeller family together. This was a heroic feat, although decades have passed. Some people still doubt whether the 12 paladins are still alive and whether they still have the strength they had in the past. However, in my judgment, I'm afraid that the 12 paladins are still alive. Therefore, you can imagine the power of the Rothschild family, and Alex is a member of this family. Tang Zheng suddenly realized why the old king was so serious. It turned out that there was such a large power hidden in Europe. You also know that Nicholas died in my hands. Do you think I would still be afraid of the 12 paladins? Tang Zheng didn't think much of it. These Westerners often liked to boast, but compared to the practitioners of Huaxia, they were still lacking. The Rockefeller family was the best proof. Seeing that Tang Zheng didn't think much of it, The king became anxious and hurriedly said, "There's a saying in Huaxia that an arrogant army is bound to lose. I think this saying is very classic. Although Nicholas lost in your hands, Rothschild is not Nicholas. You can't generalize, so it's better to be careful." The king seemed to have unlimited power these years, but in fact, he had always been cautious. So when he saw Tang Zhang's attitude, he was secretly anxious for him. Chapter 9:15. Although the king's words were very serious, Tang Zheng disagreed and said, "I don't have a direct conflict of interest with the Rothschild family. If they want to fight me to the death just because of Alex, then this family wouldn't have been able to stand for so many years without falling." Big families were very cautious. If they made a big fuss just because of one person's jealousy, then it would be making a big fuss out of nothing. Besides, didn't the Rothschild family always pay attention to keeping a low profile? That was even more unlikely. After listening to Tang Zheng's explanation, the king pondered for a while and had to admit that what he said was true. He nodded and said, "Your analysis is very reasonable. It seems that I was too concerned, but in any case, it's better to be careful. Thank you for your reminder, Your Majesty." Tang Zheng was not a person who was afraid of trouble. And of course, he was not a person who liked to stir up trouble. As long as the Rothschild family did not provoke him, then he would naturally not pay attention to them. The Rockefeller family has a lot of property in Europe. I have already arranged it for you. You can act tomorrow. Bruce will accompany you all the way, the king said. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Madame Mu is fully responsible for this matter. She is more proficient in business than I am." The king said hesitantly, "This is a huge fortune." Tang Zheng knew what he was thinking and waved his hand. "Your Majesty, I chose her because I believe in her." The king was slightly startled. He did not expect Tang Zheng to trust Mu Hongyan so much. He did not say anything more and nodded. "Then it's up to you." Tang Zheng left the study. Tian Chanzi came out of nowhere and looked at him with a meaningful smile. Tang Zheng was baffled and said, "Tian Chanzi, why are you smiling so lowly? Boy, you're slandering me. I'm so sage-like. How could I have anything to do with that word?" Tian Chanzi refuted righteously. Tang Zheng curled his lips and said, "Don't flatter yourself. I saw that you were very coquettish today. You seem to be having a lot of fun dancing with others." Tang Zheng gestured in front of his chest. Tian Chanzi immediately thought of the woman with large breasts, but he retorted seriously, "Nonsense, this is communication. Understand?" Tang Zheng chuckled. "I understand. You don't have to explain. The more you explain, the worse it gets. You still have the nerve to talk about me? Don't think I don't know what you did. That Alex didn't frame you, right?" Tian Chanzi said meaningfully. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He really couldn't hide anything from Tian Chanzi's discerning eyes. But he said without changing his expression, "If he's not framing me, then what is? Why are you siding with an outsider?" After that, Tang Zheng walked away without looking back. "Guilty conscience." Tian Chanzi shouted at Tang Zheng's back. Tang Zheng didn't say anything. When he returned to his room, he thought of Mu Hongyan who lived next door. He wondered if he should climb over the wall. But when he thought that Tian Chanzi must be secretly watching, he temporarily suppressed the idea in his heart. Ding! A text message came in. "Rest early, good night." Mu Hongyan sent a text message. Mu Hongyan had never sent him a good night text before. He felt warm in his heart and quickly replied, "Did you miss me?" This text message was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no reply. He guessed that she might have fallen asleep, so he fell into a deep sleep. But he didn't know that this text message kept Mu Hongyan awake for most of the night. She had been wondering whether to reply or not. She was very worried that Tang Zheng would come in the middle of the night. What would happen if he found out? But there was also a faint expectation in her heart. She was much less reserved than other girls. She knew what she needed. Of course, she was very eager, but her rationality stopped her. If Tang Zheng really sneaked in, she was afraid that she wouldn't resist. In the end, She struggled until she was exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. Tian Chanzi used his energy to eavesdrop for a long time, but there was no sound. He sighed. How could this guy be so stupid? Although this Mu Hongyan's Yin Qi was weak, it was better than nothing. He was actually indifferent to such a great beauty. He was really a blockhead. If Tang Zheng knew Tian Chanzi's thoughts, he would probably be impatient to climb over the wall. The next day, Mu Hongyan and Bruce left to deal with business matters. Tang Zheng was called in by, and early in the morning, she volunteered to take Tang Zheng on a tour of her country. Last time, Tang Zheng came and went in a hurry, so he didn't have time to properly appreciate this country. Tang Zheng couldn't refuse, so he could only follow her. Tian Chanzi didn't want to be a third wheel behind the two of them, so he left the palace on his own. When Tang Zheng saw the team ready to go, he realized how wise Tian Chanzi's decision was. With so many attendants surrounding him, how could he play? Tang Zheng didn't like this kind of life, and saw through Tang Zheng's thoughts. Her eyes lit up and she whispered, "Do you have a way to slip away from under their noses? We can get rid of them and play by ourselves." Tang Zheng was also a fearless person, so he readily agreed. "No problem, then we'll think of a way to slip away." Bezer and the others were still bitterly waiting for Princess and to get on the carriage. But they didn't notice that the two people had already jumped down from the palace's window, which was more than 10 meters high. They quietly fell into a dense forest nearby, and had a rebellious spirit hidden in her bones. When she sneaked into the forest, her cheeks were red with excitement, as if she was drunk. I've always wanted to escape from their eyes and ears, but every time I didn't succeed. This time, with your help, I finally succeeded. When your cultivation is high in the future, this will only be a small matter. Tang Zheng lightly said, "AI, when will my cultivation be as high as yours?" Anne's expression darkened as she said dejectedly, "If you use the crystals to absorb the energy within, your cultivation will naturally be twice the result with half the effort." Crystals? Anne's expression stiffened. Of course she knew that her father had more than 2 crystals, but as for how many he had, she didn't know. "You won't tell me that your father really doesn't have any more crystals, right?" Tang Zheng said with interest, and awkwardly said, "So you already know?" "Not only do I know, even Tian Chanzi knows." Tang Zheng didn't want to hide it from her. Crystals are really good things. Although he now had Qi use Heart's blood and didn't need to absorb the energy of crystals, the people around him needed it too much. Master actually knows about it too. Annie was shocked. "Your father specially invited Tian Chanzi this time. It's not as simple as just wanting to see him, right? You should have other requests. Since we're not outsiders, you might as well just get straight to the point with Tian Chanzi." This was Tang Zheng's guess, so he directly told her there was no need to beat around the bush. Anne's expression kept changing, thinking that she had to tell her father about this matter. But she didn't want to let this matter spoil her mood. In the blink of an eye, her face was full of sunshine as she said, "Let's not talk about this. Let's quickly leave this forest and go to the main street. My country has a long history and has many famous scenic spots. Your trip will definitely be worthwhile. Then I'll wait and see." Before coming out, and especially dressed up so that people who weren't familiar with her wouldn't be able to recognize her. The two of them walked along the streets, which were filled with the ancient charm of history. This country's population wasn't large, so it wasn't as busy as their home country. It was very leisurely and comfortable. There were many cafes along the street, and many people sat inside and ordered a cup of coffee without doing anything, lazily basking in the sun. Tang Zheng couldn't help but sigh. This was a developed country. His own country was too far behind and still had a long way to go. Hundreds of years ago, his own country was still standing at the top of the world, but the world had changed and it had fallen to this point. Huaxia will definitely rise. Tang Zheng was full of confidence and was like a lively spirit, full of vitality. Unknowingly, she grabbed Tang Zheng's hand and didn't let go. Her hand seemed to have no bones, slightly cold and very soft. It was very comfortable to hold in his hand. The two of them toured the ancient ruins and visited the magnificent and mysterious church. In the end, Tang Zheng actually saw a Chinese tour group in the crowd. Chinese tour groups have been criticized for all these years. They were said to be of poor quality and had lost their face overseas. But this tour group didn't have such bad habits. Clearly, one couldn't generalize from one side. Look at your countrymen. Princess Anne also saw this tour group. Let's go over and say hello. After saying this, she pulled him to the front of the group of tourists and waved in a friendly manner. Friends of Huaxia. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my country. This friendliness stunned everyone. Such a beautiful foreign girl could actually speak Huaxia. This made them very surprised. Hello, hello. Everyone responded excitedly. I hope you like my country. Princess Anne said. Yes, this country is very beautiful. Everyone praised politely, but more people noticed Tang Zheng, who was holding hands with Anne. Suddenly, everyone's eyes lit up. Could this foreign girl be this young man's girlfriend? Then this young man must be from Huaxia. He really brought glory to the country by finding such a beautiful foreign girl. Hello, everyone. Tang Zheng also smiled and greeted in a friendly manner. Wow, you're really from Huaxia. Handsome, you're so awesome. Everyone gave him a thumbs up. Tang Zheng smiled lightly and said, I hope you have fun. Seeing that someone in the crowd had already taken photos of him and Anne, he pulled and prepared to leave. And saw that the little girl in front of her was very cute. She bent down and held her face, praising, wow, what a cute little girl. Suddenly, and felt a hot liquid sprinkle on her face. She touched it subconsciously, and her hand was full of blood. Tang Zheng's reaction was faster than Annie's. He saw that the moment Annie bent down, the little girl's mother's chest bloomed with a dark red flower of blood. Sniper rifle. Tang Zheng's nerves immediately tensed up. He shouted, get down, and pushed Anne and the little girl to the ground. Whoosh! You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.